Tweek, if that makes sense. Walla Tweek. And, man, it's so smooth. You can tell that they modded this because it is so smooth compared to the Majora's Mask. What I might do is I'm messing around with a different type of loader for Majora's Mask and stuff too, and I wonder if that'll work. Oh, Melvin Connect. Hello. Hello, it's you. There is knockback. I don't think it does damage, but we can. Oh yeah, if you hit Y, it does sound test disabled. Does that have to do with the controls? Okay, yeah, so you can remove Y from the extra binds if you don't want to see sound test disabled every time you hit Y. Ciabatta Boy connected, how's it going? Everyone's just selecting your character. Oh, I see GL Gamer is Pac-Man.
How do I select that again? I don't.
Wait, sorry, which one do you want to select?
So if I can change the color palette, I could do the one little, like,
You can
dragony one, because then I can make it kind of look like a fish. Stop hitting me, Ciabatta!
Oh, that one is /VEF on, I think. Like slash.
How do I get the chat box to open to even do that?
Oh, and the enter button should open the chat box.
Okay.
But yes, GL Gamer, you can join voice chat.
I realized I didn't ask. I just was like, oh yeah, I wasn't here earlier. That's fine. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I assumed people were gonna hop in anyway, so it's not
okay.
It works. Oh, we'd have to do another Ninja Link too so wouldn't we?
It's me, Diario.
So it wasn't. Hi. Okay.
Hello.
I mean, that doesn't take long. You have the green screen, right?
Yep.
I'm Hank.
Oh, Ra, how's it going? You're also Waluigi? So every character has a special moveset as well. So Waluigi has a
I gotta turn off stream chat.
Has a fantastical jump. And he can also hold on. He can also swim through the air. That's his special moveset.
I'll just grab Ninja again.
I have noticed a minor problem with this unbinding Y is that you can't use the moves associated with Y.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were going to slide directly under me.
It's okay.
It's an error message. I'm just going to leave it on.
Alright. We're going to have to lower the volume of the game the old-fashioned way with a volume mixer.
It's very fun. We're just setting up, though. We're all just hanging out in the lobby here. We've got Hat Kid, we got Pac-Man, we got Waluigi.
Waluigi?
Pac-Man, actually.
Jesus Christ.
Honestly, as much as I want to...
Can you stop beating me for like 5 fucking seconds?
No. Impossible.
As much as I want to play Waluigi, I'm actually debating playing Sonic. Because we also have...
Wait, how did you do that? Spin through the air?
If you jump and press B twice, you'll start swimming through the air as well.
Okay, here you go.
Or sorry, you have to be moving forward, so it does like a dive first.
How can I change my color palette again? I just want to see what other color
like
palettes
jump
there
BB.
are.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
if you
I think you can
pause the game and hit the R button, you'll get the options, and you can go to player and change your color palette.
I'm using a controller. I don't know how to do that. God.
Start and then yeah. So it should be start and then it should be the right bumper. I think.
Right bumper.
Yeah.
Wow. Player. I want colors.
Shannick.
I got it.
I got it.
By the way,
yes.
Ciabatta is inside Mal, so you might want to like.
Oh, I do have to move
around people.
Oh shit! My controller vibrated so violently there.
I kind of
I
wish I
just
had a soundboard just for Pac-Man sounds. Just speak to the chat that way.
Ciabatta
Alright.
boy. There we go.
Green, lilac, copper, azure.
I sent you the ninja link too.
Okay. I'll grab that.
Oh, that's.
Well, I had to turn on our team Discord reacts because Zook's there. So otherwise it wouldn't work.
Ah!
Sleep.
God fucking hell, Ciabatta. I'm trying to
Okay,
pick my
There we
color.
go. Excellent. I think it's all set up. Oh, wait.
I
Ah.
think we'll just end up going with hot pink. Alright.
Player, custom, edit palettes. What is my shirt color? That's
Wait,
my
I
shoes.
have a custom option?
Yeah, you can customize your palette if you want.
I'm so
Oh, I can pencil
blurry.
your
Is
head.
it gonna fix
How?
itself a little
Clothes does
bit?
nothing. Shoes does nothing.
Okay.
Hair does nothing.
Hey, I'm here. Hello.
Hello.
Skin
Ooh, I can
does
find my
nothing.
hex codes. Ha 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 ha.
Today I'll learn and we can bounce off each other's heads.
And
I can deep
now
rock a
I
little bit.
will go on.
Resume. There we go. There, I'm
Okay.
Tweek the Hedgehog.
Skin.
It's wonderful.
Oh yeah, you're not the only one that can go fast.
Alright, give me those advanced color options so then I know what my hex code is.
Oh god, I can't swim! I can't swim! Let me out!
You
I can
made
swim.
mistakes. You have
Swimming,
regrets.
my only weakness.
Oh, I did make one mistake. Sorry, can I rehost? I forgot
okay.
to. I apologize.
Everyone out?
I made one mistake with a mod.
Rip.
You fucked up.
I know.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
holding run
There's
when
sound
you
for
ended
that,
it,
man.
and now my character on the screen is just permanently running.
This is a horrific Waluigi. Okay, it's back up.
God.
It's back up.
There you go.
It was
Do
at
it
this
yourself.
moment that he knew.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so-
I forgot that the faster swimming mod like messes up a lot of characters. Like besides the
Why did you
Mario
put
one.
the-
I just
Man.
need to see.
Why won't it let me go back?
Yeah.
For me, it put the port number twice after I tried to read.
Oh,
it's,
yeah,
oh yeah.
Yeah, for some reason it adds support number twice. I don't know
So
why.
it-
Weird.
Oh.
Wait, I'm not a Pac-Man. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
There we are.
Slash.
on.
Yeah, I know.
Definitely.
I just,
Yeah, you got it.
Enter.
I just wish you could have it on the
Yay!
default.
And it should still remember your palettes and everything.
What the heck? No, wait. I typed it. Oh, the thing's being a little funky.
I'm so
Is
excited
that
for
what it
this.
was?
Oh, hey, who hit
No.
me? Who hit me? Who hit
It's
me?
that.
It was a bread goat. Get back here.
VEF. VEPH. On.
Yes, slash vet on.
Yeah.
It's a dolphin kobold. Thing.
Hold
Actually,
on.
it's a dolphin fox.
Gotcha.
I'm ow. Ow.
Play like a freaking soccer.
I'm a danger. I'm a danger.
Ah!
Woo! Incoming.
Okay. And then shirt, gloves, shoes.
I'm so excited for this.
Hello, chef.
Hello, hello.
Shut her up.
So, who's all played Mario 64 before? Because I'm kind of interested to see who's going into this brand
Oh
new.
no, I'm in a
20
dream.
years ago.
Yeah,
I once
Are we
got
all
to the store,
dolphins?
so it's been a while.
Are we?
no, that's
Hi.
fair. It is definitely an older game, but it is. I'm so excited to play with a group of people.
It's gonna be fun. I'm interested in this highly.
Is someone drowning? My
I also
controller's
wanted
vibrating.
Smash mode and multiplayer. I want to try it out later. Someday.
Yeah.
Hi.
Well, yeah,
fun,
we'll
but
try
I
out
think-
some of the other game modes, but I figure let's do some
Awesome.
classic first and
Oh sure.
see how it goes.
You're having so much fun. Oh no!
Oh, the custom's not working.
What are you running?
What the?
Which part's not working?
I'm trying to make it custom, and I put the
Oh, this is.
the hex code, and it's not changing it.
Oh.
If you're using a custom model, sometimes they don't change all the parts. Like
Oh,
the Pac-Man,
yeah.
You can only change his
Well,
body.
it said skin.
I like this character.
Yeah, so when you do edit palette on a custom character, sometimes it'll be like for this character here, the hair was the color of my skin, and my gloves was the color of my shoes. So it's a little,
For me, sure, it's my body and nothing else can change. It's my gloves and boots stay the same.
yeah.
Because, like, how do I know it's applying? Do I just press enter? Should as soon as I put the code in?
It's as soon as you change the color, it should show.
Yeah, as soon as,
So once you find the right option, it'll change.
Boink!
Boing.
Boink!
Everyone's just
Whoa, what the hell
watching.
is that?
Hey, so
Boing!
wait. You did remind me of something. So come here. Check me out.
I'm
Wait,
trying
where
to
are
think.
you?
What are all the different characters? I should probably go through them all.
I'm like, look, I can go super fast and just bounce.
Okay, so you've seen a lot of characters. You've seen what Waluigi can do.
Okay, so it does work. I'm just doing it wrong because I'm dumb. Okay,
I
okay.
gotta try that.
Hold on.
There's also
It took a lot for me to get the controls.
Hold on. Let's get actually the shoes and the gloves to pink. Like
there's
they
also
should
Sonic
be. So it
Faker
should be
because he can
E
teleport.
5-2.
Yeah, we figured a lot of people would love this. Honestly, we discovered it on YouTube, and
Hair.
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love that it can bounce infinitely. It's amusing.
yeah. It's
Boing,
so
boing.
you need to have your
crossing.
legally acquired copy of Mario 64
Oh my god.
because we don't promote piracy.
Right?
And then you have to download a script that turns that Mario copy of 64 into a multiplayer game.
Okay, I don't think hair.
And then you no
actually
longer
changes
need that Mario copy of
anything.
64 if you don't.
Okay.
But yes, that's how it worked.
I have legally owned this game, so we're good. On
Yeah.
my end.
I have it with my N64 behind me, actually.
1, 2, 8. Oh, it does my little add-ons, but not my skin. So maybe this is my overalls.
Skin.
Yeah, my skin.
Look at me, I'm running in the 90s.
Oh, sorry, who else is there? Oh,
Okay.
Wario. Wario has super
Alright, that changed
knockback
my
and ground pound.
outfit.
Oh
It's
yeah, I forgot
actually
to do this. So
nuts.
you can do this with this character. Look at that. You can just like.
Yeah, this is kind of amazing.
I kind of can get
Toad-
Sonic to run
Toad
towards
is-
my speed.
Yeah, Toad is the other fast character. They have lower jumps, but they can like run up most surfaces without slowing down.
This color
Luigi's
code
got
is
flutter
A2 bad
jumps.
one that I want
And
to use.
Waluigi's got
great.
that really weird moveset.
82.
But I'm actually also interested. I bet
20.
Wario is good against Bowser because he's got like the crazy knockback and throwing distance. So
I'm going to find which one is the right color for my skin. I want to change my skin.
Give me new skin.
new skin.
All I want for Christmas is new skin.
There's definitely got to
Okay,
be.
well that changed the skin, but for some reason it made me green instead of my actual green.
Weird.
So, hold on.
I mean, it could also be pulling from as much of the Mario palette as it can.
Yeah.
Too. I'm not entirely
Yeah,
sure.
limited
Well,
colors.
I have a slightly different one I can use. Because my
Hello.
skin has multiple shades.
How long can you slide on your belly for? That's pretty good.
And you
You can fly for a
well,
while.
like you can just keep like
There
doing
we
it
go.
over and
That
over
looks
again.
like it's closer
Oh.
to my palette right there. Does that look like my green? I can't tell
It
because
gets
also there's a shadow of
fast.
black over my outfit.
Yeah, it's really awesome once you get enough
It's like a dark
momentum.
forest green almost.
That looks almost like my greenish blue. Okay. Alright, gloves. Gloves can stay pink. Shoes can stay pink.
Well, I love that we're just fucking around outside the castle.
So while we're getting stars, is it only one star per before it kicks us out?
No. So there's no star cutscenes, and it won't kick you out of levels for grabbing a star.
Ah, okay. So we can just like run through and get all stars.
Oh yeah, and everything
Very
is
quickly.
synced too. So like, if someone grabs like 2 red coins and you grab like 4 red coins, and like the star appears, someone else can grab the star. Like it's all.
Oh, we could really speedrun this.
Oh yeah, it's,
Allegedly
Yeah.
synced.
Yeah.
the boss
I
fights
have
are fun
seen
too.
some stuff about this. Allegedly synced.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I saw old versions of this that weren't very well synced, but this one we were doing. I was even doing with Soot, and the bosses have aggro, and we were able to like lead the boss around with one person and grab them from behind with the other person. Like it was really good.
Oh yeah, that is pretty close
Maybe
to
we
my
should wait for
green
the others,
blue.
General.
Don't make me do it.
We're gonna head inside.
I'll do it.
Okay, I would say that's pretty close to my color scheme.
Battlefield.
Oh, rise after Bubba Battlefield.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Go, go, go.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
It's
shit.
starting.
I'm
It's-
inside.
Mel ready?
It begins. Oh, you held the door open for me. Thanks, Shibata.
Is Mel done
That's a gentleman
customizing?
goat.
I'm in here.
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
Where are we going?
Ew,
So the first door on the furthest door on your left is the bottom battlefield.
Do we all have to like meet up to? Oh, you're right. All
Nope.
in, okay.
Anyone can go to any level and do anything.
Oh
and it
wow.
all syncs.
Okay.
Ow.
Oh my god.
Still got it.
It's fantastic.
Wait, I can't pound.
Boing, boing,
I don't
Yeah,
think-
certain characters can't do
I
certain
think you got
things.
enough
Oh.
pounding.
Did
Come on,
Pac-Man
change. If I look
can't?
like you shouldn't be eating me.
And somebody
Oh, God.
found that womp or change.
Yeah,
Jump.
that's what I'm hoping I can do. Yep.
I'm in.
I'm going for the ball.
Look at-
Hello, Fran. Hello.
Oh, I could have changed my white.
Okay, change jump's
no,
broken.
I'm not gonna do it again. I've
Yeah.
said
Hey,
this
you
long.
look good. It looks like your palette.
You son of a bitch!
Yeah, it's just
You
that
can
if
always do it later.
that's true, I can always change the white later. But I'm so excited I managed to get that green to get in there.
Fighting the king.
Oh, you're already up at King Bob. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I
my
used
God.
to teleport another thing to get up here.
Bam,
Runs the
bam,
hill.
bam,
I'm
bam, bam,
bouncing
bam, bam,
everywhere.
We have 7 of 8 red
bam.
coins already.
Yeah, I've grabbed like 3 so far.
I'm getting money.
Oh,
Ah!
up the hill I go.
No.
Oh,
Man,
can I do
that's
this?
behind
Oh
the
yeah,
wall.
dolphin style. Oh yeah. That was so
Oh.
fast.
Okay, so we need to get across to that floating island for the last red coin.
I have no idea what you guys even are, so I'm just like vibing.
That's
King's
fair.
dead.
We will all
Oh
be
no, I went too
out of this
fast.
level very quickly. With how
Okay,
fast
downside to
we're
this character, you can go
Okay.
too fast.
Hey, come on.
Okay.
Yeah! Yeah, Rye's got the idea. Bah! Bah!
Grab all the
You went
coins you
too
can
fast.
to the 100 coin star.
Where we going
got-
now? Who's that?
I got 8 red coins. So the star's down there.
Hey, as long as one of us gets it right, is that all that matters?
Yep.
Cool. I don't have to try.
I wonder how many stuff we've already got. Okay.
Well, I got a star. Somebody else got a star. And how many stars do we have now?
Yes.
I got.
Wee!
Okay, I'm gonna
Oh,
exit the
this is wild.
castle so I can go find
I
Mal.
went all the way up the mountain. I didn't need to, but
Oops.
I did it.
I'm almost there
Hold
too.
Oh, you guys are doing the mountain. Okay,
Castle.
okay I'm
Oh,
back in the
I-
castle. I'm going to Womps.
I'm going back to the
Oh,
castle.
star.
I'll join you.
How the
I
frick
had
do we
you
get back?
Man.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if that makes any sense.
The
I don't know how to
hedge
leave. Oh no, I don't know how to get back.
That sounds weird.
Oh, you just hit
Meow,
start and
meow.
exit the castle,
Meow,
and
meow.
it brings you back.
Bam, 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 bam.
Okay, alright. So now
Ooh, it's a
going
running
to...
coin.
What is next?
You can go to Womps or the Chill Snowland. Or...
Oh, I just unlocked the door.
Yeah, there's a couple places. I'm at Womps at the moment.
I can't
Oh,
talk to
that's the
people.
snowy
It's
world.
illegal.
Did it crash? Uh-oh. Uh-oh!
Crash.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh!
We all crash? Or is it-
I crashed.
I'm
No,
still
I'm playing just fine.
I opened the door and the game froze.
Oh, no.
Open the
To
door
where?
again on the
Yeah.
floor. Oh,
I mean, I could probably just reload and join, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
did you
should be
open
able
the
to
door to?
rejoin.
Yep, the game decided to unalive.
Ow. That flower is mean. So
Hey,
I'm
Tweek.
at
Ow!
Womp Land. Womp Fortress.
Yeah.
That's it.
You're at soup.
Oh no!
I'm at Soup.
Why are you buying clothes at the soup store?
Why are you at soup?
We've already got 4 red coins, which is awesome.
You know,
Nice.
I'm gonna go the other way.
Well, maybe I should go to the snowy world. No.
I mean, you
I
can.
won't.
Malvin entered the
that,
castle
Womp.
main floor.
I'm
I'm
already
going in.
there.
Are you already fighting the swamp boss?
I did make it to Thwomp. I haven't started fighting him yet, though. I'm circling him.
You guys are already done this one, basically. I'm going to the...
Oh, God! Whoa!
You just fall to your
I'm
doom.
gonna have
I
so
just got
much money.
yeeted. I survived,
Yeah.
but I gotta climb back up now.
You went the
I
last hit
went
on
to
him?
the snowy place.
No, I mean, that's fine. If you can kill him, I'll go keep getting red coins.
Alright, cool. And he's dead.
Woo! I get back up pretty fast. Like, I'm already almost back at the top. Oh, I heard the little dance.
I can be a penguin!
I don't remember where the
I
penguin's
can
supposed to
I
go.
can live. I can just slide everywhere. I am
The
a
very
penguin.
bottom, I think, of the mountain.
It's also really easy
Oh,
to
God.
die.
Oh.
Oh, What?
Perfect.
Jumped off the level. Bye, Tweek.
You found my precious.
I was trying to get to that
baby.
cage. It didn't quite work.
Oh, I think I crashed when I died off the level.
Oh,
Oh,
Give me that.
the best. At least you could just rejoin.
Woo!
It's not that
Another
bad.
star.
Let's restart the game here.
oh, that's weird.
I love
Okay, I
dying.
didn't think about the fact of going to a world solo and then dying and nobody's here to unbubble me.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you're solo in a world, you can't be unbubbled.
Can I
so-
just leave?
And all the red coins reset.
Where are you at?
Okay, I
Oh,
was
I was
at the
gonna
snowy
say
world.
I'm in the same map.
The snowy world?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
Pretty
okay.
nutty.
I'm going back. I just left because
finished
I was
returning the
scared.
penguin.
I was
don't wanna
scared
be-
and I didn't know where anyone was.
Got
That's
4
okay.
red coins.
I'm always scared.
I'm always scared.
5 red coins.
oh god.
Please.
Not inside the piranha plant, please, game. I don't want to die. I just got 4 red coins in the womp land.
Instead of
Oh,
eating a salad, the
piranha.
salad is eating you.
Let it go.
I
Quite
know
ironic that
skippies
a
aren't
ghost is
easy,
playing
but you can do
Pac-Man.
it.
What's ironic about
No,
it?
no, no, no!
Who's in the water? Who's in the snow?
I am, and Rye.
Chef, I don't know what you mean. I'm perfect. It's perfectly normal for a ghost to be playing.
No!
It's just a traumatizing experience that they get eaten alive
Oh,
all the
shit.
time.
I'm
No big
so
deal.
bad!
That shouldn't happen.
Entered the main floor.
Why did we both get yeeted out? Wait, did we complete it? No.
No.
I was just doing a, I was doing a mini game.
I only have 2 lives left. Wow.
I want to go back into the slidey game. I was doing good.
Oh, does the slide game kick you out if you fall
No,
off?
no, no.
Yes.
No, I fell. I died.
I died too.
And then
Oh,
it kicks
okay.
me out.
Oh yeah, that'll kick you to the castle.
Oh, why are you not if you're in the water
extra
level?
life.
I like.
I'm
Oh,
in a
you can
bubble.
also
I can
hold
jump
the
up.
back button to see where each player is currently.
Ooh,
I tried to be brave,
Oh,
and that was
Chibata,
not
you
a
chose
good
the
idea.
water level. What's wrong with you?
my ass almost slipped off that.
I had a rough childhood.
Okay.
It makes you float. I died.
No, who picks the
I was
water
so
level?
close. I was
But
so
to be fair, we
I
do
need
have
to do it again. I'm not satisfied until I do this.
Got 2
I
lives
was
left.
so freaking close. I'd almost gone through the tunnel.
I actually love that we're all doing our own thing.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and we're all gonna like feedback on it too. I'm almost done the 8 red coins in Womps. Nailed it.
Alright, turn the camera around. And now I done that. See, can I make that jump? Oh, nope, I slipped already. Oops.
Woo!
Oh, did anyone remember the shortcut in the tunnel? You guys know?
No, oh yeah, the shortcut through the wall, right?
Don't you?
Yeah, got it.
Don't you laugh at me, Bowser?
Hey, I got a life.
Kick your ass.
Silly Bowser.
Bam, 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 bam. Bam,
Oh,
bam,
of
bam,
course.
bam,
I did
bam,
start.
bam, bam,
No.
Oh, I wasn't sorry, the mushroom. Never mind.
bam, 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 bam.
I got star for us.
Oh, my neck.
How? Oh, we already got 10 stars. Nice.
11.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the water level as Sonic. This couldn't possibly go wrong.
I did
Sonic
it.
loves water, don't you know?
the best water level.
Wing caps are now active.
Ooh, nice.
Yay! Okay, I feel like I should do the water level on this character.
Okay.
Kind of swim.
Running around at the speed of sound. I got places to go. Gotta follow my ramp.
Okay, where's the water level door?
I'm so fast
far
at
right.
swimming,
Where?
guys.
It's like. Oh, we got a
Oh,
star
come
opening.
on. I'm gonna get my ass through that tunnel. Yes! Oh, yeah!
Go
I made it to
Sonic!
the end.
Sonic speed!
Yay!
Sonic speed!
Ow.
Ow!
Wait a minute, what? I don't get like a...
Sonic speed!
Sonic drown!
Excusez-moi?
Oh.
I made
Oh, I
it.
got to find the eel.
Excusez-moi?
Oh.
Go wake up the creepy eel.
Have we done the chests in the
Por qué?
cave?
In the cave, yes.
Okay.
That one and the one in the ship. that's
I
immediately in the beginning.
dolphin!
How dare you? I'm being insulted by this game.
Oh, I'm so fast!
Oh, we know.
I'm
I
so
did get my...
fast!
Yay,
someone else
another
already
star.
earned that store. Or that star,
Okay, where's
I
our
guess.
guy? There's a lot of people at Cool Mountain. Let's go check that out. How's it going over here?
Well, I got the star
Oh,
from
I
the
missed.
thingy, but I think someone else got it first.
Hi, you.
That's
How
fair.
you
That does
doing?
happen. The big penguin race. Okay. Sonic is good
Oh.
at racing.
The
I
first
thought I.
Bowser door's open too.
Ooh.
It-
Oh, we all gotta
Let's
go
go
fight
kick his
Bowser,
ass.
don't we?
You won't come out and play. Oh, there it is.
I found the button.
Push button. Receive coin.
Button!
Get the
There we go.
Sonic is so fast!
Give me that star. Give me that
So
star.
fast.
Eel. My star.
Yeah, you grab the star, I'll do whatever the
Right.
hell's all going, whatever's in here.
Oh, wow,
Got it.
that
that?
penguin was too fast.
I'm
Yay!
drowning.
No!
I just gotta get the coin. I just gotta get the coin.
Wait, you're a
Where's
ghost? How drown?
I'm so cute.
Well, currently I'm in a Pac-Man form, so once I drown, I'll have to respawn.
What the heck? This chest just did
Yeah, they're
damage.
trapped.
Ow, my face.
I was actually playing with that earlier. I remember the pattern, but I just want to figure it out.
Oh!
Hey, Mal,
Hi.
you should go get into that painting over there.
That ain't it.
I
No,
should
no, no.
I?
I know
Yeah.
a mimic when I
It's
see
perfectly
one.
safe.
I know a
Yeah.
mimic when I see one.
I'm back out.
Can I jump? No, won't let you jump over the hole. What
No,
bullshit.
it's a booby trap. Yeah.
You want to give it another try, so?
So, it should be this one.
Right?
Wow, wow, wow.
I'm just watching this, trying to solve the puzzle with the chest.
That one.
Oh, no.
There you go.
That one didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
Right.
Help.
Ow! Well, I didn't.
Okay, so it's gotta
okay, now you
be-
know the pattern. Now you know the pattern by accident.
Gone. While you're sliding, you
another
can press
bubble.
B to do a barrel roll.
Oh, God.
Yay!
No!
Yay!
Oh, I bubbled. I'm coming back, everybody.
Oh, we already got the star. Somebody did.
Oh, someone did this.
Yeah, I went in there
Hold on.
first.
Hey, can you
Wait,
let
can
me
I-
out?
Can I get the red coins
It's
in a
fine. I'm
bubble?
getting to
No, I
learn the
can't.
things anyway. From the part of my childhood that was missing.
Thank you.
Hello.
Childhood recover.
There's just a Sanic sitting over here.
Ah,
Thank you.
shit.
Oh, God.
I better
Game.
recover some
Game,
health.
please.
I did it again.
To be fair,
Okay, please. Oh.
I could play the original too, because we have our Nintendo
again,
64
like a
and
fool.
stuff.
Oh, no.
little tweaks. But I just happened to grow up a PlayStation.
Ah.
Like I played Nintendo at friends, but I didn't really like. I didn't live the
I think
full
there's one red
experience.
coin at the beginning.
Honestly, I think it would be
There's a red
fun
coin
from
up
now
here.
on. Not gonna lie.
Yeah,
But
and we have the Super Mario All Stars. So I played a bit of that, but I mostly played
You
Sunshine
reviving
so
me
far.
like that knocked me off again.
Oh, no.
I might go back and maybe play Mario 64 on
Why
there.
would you do this to me,
Oh,
Dakota?
did we change the game to Mario 64, by the way, on?
Probably
Yay.
I did.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I was like,
Okay,
There's
Same.
a
I
red
got,
coin
I
over
got
here.
this. I know what I'm doing.
No, that's
I
fair,
keep
that's
up with things.
That's fair.
Let's
that's
see,
fair.
red coin.
Got
How
two
the
red
hell
coins in the
did you
water
get
level.
that?
I'd make that 4.
Maybe there's
So-
fake floor.
I'm gonna
Well,
hang
get over
out
here.
in the Bowser level for
Yeah.
a little bit, so I can make sure people can bubble in case they're getting red coins.
I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. I
I
think
got it.
GL's got
Oh,
this. Because
doesn't-
I'm like,
There you go. I figured it out.
But someone could jump for it and kill themselves and grab it, and it would still count.
Yeah.
like that.
Did you say the Bowser level?
Yeah, we're in the Bowser level,
Hang on.
wow, so
the Dark
quick.
World.
The Dark World.
Yeah.
Get the Bowser theme there.
Oh wait, so where does red coin star appear on this level?
I don't know.
There are more red coins in this water level. I don't think we got them all. Yep, 4 more.
Yeah, we got all the 8 red coins. Is it on that island in the center? It might be on that island on the way up.
Oh
Yeah.
Check it
god,
out when we're
I
done.
actually
That's a
don't
little
want to be
further
where
out.
you are.
Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa.
I'm worried about going back down because Sonic's jumps are very hard with how fast they are.
Take my hand.
Oh,
We'll make it out.
Oh god, I just saw you fall.
Whoa!
yeah, because if you accidentally double tap A, it just dive bombs you.
Huh. I actually
Coin in
don't.
this? Yes, there is.
I actually don't know where the star is on this level. Oh, I found it. Red coin star was up here. No.
Ew, don't bite me.
I died. For good.
Oh, okay. You'll get 5 lives and like respawn outside, I think. Hey, how's it go? Oh yeah, if you guys
You
bubble, you
four.
can
I
just float
totally
to
made
Bowser.
it up here. What are
Yeah.
you talking about?
If you float to Bowser, I can pop your bubbles.
There should be more.
Back.
Hey, how's How's it going, Shabbat?
What's that weird thing sticking out of the rock down below? If you see it.
Oh, that's a fire cannon.
Oh,
I
okay.
said,
It burns
Hey,
us.
hello.
look at
I'm
little
going
guys.
to take on
We're little
the Bow
dudes.
Wow.
We're adorable.
Out
Wait,
the
wait.
stream.
Should we wait for everyone to catch up? I can always just
Huh?
run around him.
I jumped for the red coin star and it threw me off.
Oh god. Oh, I'm slower running for the. Wait. Oh, but I think I got the red coin star in the Rise of the Dark World.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
There was another one there for me.
Oh, that's weird.
I think we need 2 more red coins in the water level.
Aha!
Whoa. Where you going?
Whoa! Where'd he go? Whoa!
Over here.
That was a little distinct. Okay, that's fine. Wow, that's a lot of spinning for how close that was.
I wasn't sure which button to press to let him go.
That's fair.
Just push all the buttons.
Now, Bowser, can you
I
stop?
did. One of them eventually worked.
Yeah! Boom, Bow Wow. Oh, you turned him into a key.
Where's that? Where's the
Marky!
zombies?
Yeah, marker! Yeah!
Okay, I got here just in time to take credit.
Yeah, just that.
1 more red coin. Where is it? Where is it?
Okay, everybody, we now have the basement, I think, is the next area.
That's where I live. Wait.
What?
Should be proud of that.
Whoops, I went too fast.
Whoa, 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 ah! Thanks, I didn't know where I was going. That's a boo.
Oh, wait, how did you get the key?
Wait, no, you had the haunted levels.
I showed
yeah,
up
the
just in
haunted
time
levels.
to take credit.
I should be my home there.
Yeah,
I'm friggin' ghost.
I'm gonna go to the boo level. That one's actually a fun one.
I can't remember where the last red coin is. If anybody has an idea.
Which level?
The water level.
Ooh,
Dire
that's
Docks.
a hard one.
All of them except 1.
See ya,
What is even
suckers.
there?
I'm kind of stubborn
back
to
here.
try and want to get all of them.
No, yeah, that's fair. The red coins
Stop
are worth
running for
going in,
me.
but I don't actually know where they all are in that water level.
got
I don't
one
do
bow,
it too often.
one spike.
Stop running, give me love.
Maybe.
Huh?
Maybe
Oh, do
it's
you-
maybe.
There's
Who
a
are we trying to
violent.
love? Is it
There's
us?
a violent piano after me.
We'll make it know that the key feature of the game there, Tweek.
Where did the bunny
Whoa.
go? Aren't we supposed
That
to
wasn't
catch it?
supposed to happen.
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay. I can just
Things
run
you
back
never
into
want
the
to hear in a
level.
Coop
I
game.
rammed into a door and ended up outside the map.
I'm too fast for the
Ah,
eyeballs
Shibata
in the
got the
Boo's
bunny.
mansion. They actually couldn't keep
But
track
I
of
am
me.
the bunny now.
Oh, it's so cute.
I
Aww.
feel like I'm missing out on that.
I took it with me
Oh my God,
wherever
it-
I just went, apparently. I didn't know that I was taking it somewhere.
Shifting Sandland. Oh my gosh. You guys are
I
doing
found
some
a
crazy-
rabbit
Oh,
outside
yes.
of the map.
Oh,
Oh, in the basement?
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Oh.
you can manage to catch it, you get a star.
yeah.
How they found it?
Chibata already got it.
Whoa.
Oh.
Oh.
I'm gonna check out the haunted place.
I am in the basement of Boo's mansion now. I think I fell through the floor.
Well, that happened.
Oh, that's right. I can't ground pound. Damn.
Yeah, certain characters.
Oh no.
I don't have a ground pound either. I gotta do
It
a
is
bounce.
decreed that one shall pound the pillars. Alright.
Oh, actually, I think Hat Girl gets a really crazy different moveset when she gets the metal cap.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Cat girl?
You don't.
How do I...
we don't have it
Yes,
unlocked
I'm-
yet.
I'm a cat girl, Mel. Yes, that's what
Oh,
he said.
hat girl.
Oh, that's a whirlpool.
I don't know. I kind of is
Oh,
is
I
Cat Girl
died.
Ciabatta a thing in canon?
Cat
can
girl
be.
Chibata. Cat girl Chibata.
Which need.
Were
I know Mel wants to
we
see
going
me.
to do a femba, a boy arc?
wants me to do sad cat dance. I know. So
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Give me my sad cat dance.
wait, I can't do a triple jump with Hat Kid. So how do I fly?
Whoa.
Oh gosh, that's a good point.
I don't think I can fly.
Uh-oh.
I think I can
should
just
be
slow
What was
fall.
this?
Theme in here.
Ah,
What is this? What does this do?
help.
I don't know what this does.
What does what do?
I got wings!
Oh yeah, if you triple jump, you get to fly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how that affects this character!
That's
And then-
also fair.
I can just hover.
Oh wait,
I
is
don't
there
get to
someone in this
fly.
mansion with me?
Yep, me.
Oh.
And I just fell in the water.
I think it was just me and
Oh,
you
I
in
just
here,
got
wasn't
out
it,
of
Seth?
Kill me!
No, Chibata! Chibata's
Kill
down here.
me!
Let me out.
It feels kind of wrong playing Mario as Sonic.
How do you think I feel about Ghost playing Pac-Man in a Mario game?
We're all committing crimes. You committed crimes against your people. What do you say?
Well, technically, they're really not my people since I'm not
Oh,
technically
no,
a
no,
ghost.
this is a bad time for my controller.
You
Back.
sort
Oh.
of a biscuit-eating bulldog.
Have I
back
killed
any
all the
batteries.
booze yet? I think I'm supposed to be killing all the booze. Can't entirely.
Ah! I got a star! I did it!
We did it. We did it. We
The
did it. Yay.
master
Why did I
boo is
go
at the
to
top of the tower. Okay, so something
Listen,
happened.
it was a star that no one had gotten yet.
I mean, credit. give
I
her
beat
credit
Chibata
due.
to it.
Oh god, no! Damn it, I'm in the basement again. Because I
Alright,
tried to
here's,
take a
here's another one
shortcut.
for you. Get a hat and get that one out of the.
I'll wait until you get here to the elevator.
No. I had a hat and then I
How did I
didn't-
mess that
I don't
up?
fly.
I don't know, man.
That's so silly.
Go to the lava world. That's easier, I think.
I
for
can
me.
keep banging our heads on the wall when we try to jump.
Yeah.
Speed.
Moving around at the speed of too fast. Gotta slow down.
I'll get a concussion.
Hello.
Quick.
Shall we elevate?
Elevation. I have no idea where I'm going.
Gotta go
Are you
slow.
okay?
Huh?
Very slow, apparently.
Woo! It was a trick.
Wahahaha!
Hi, sir.
Ow, thanks.
There's a boo in here.
Oh gosh.
Hi.
I was gonna say we got the perfect butt bounces for this, except we're also bouncing each
I
other.
actually heard it though.
Oh, I exited.
Whoa.
Oh, we
there's
got
like
it.
a
Back in the
million
courtyard.
boos
Got it. Stop me.
I think your butt bounce seems to have more of a knockback and not so much a
It
damage.
does. It really does. It's more of like a deflector than the damager.
Oh god.
Here.
Oh no, not the piano room. Let me out.
Let me out. Let me out.
Why did I subjugate myself to the booze mansion? What's wrong with me? Oh yeah, I'm too fast. I gotta
Oh,
actually
damn
like
it.
wait
That's
for
why I
it.
have to exit this way. Ah, damn, okay.
Which way to go?
Okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh.
I'm just trying to read the text.
Read.
So how do you pick which ones pop up? Or is it just
You don't, it's random depending on which. It depends on which. Certain
okay.
ones only do it with proximity. Actually,
Okay.
works good.
This is a weird mansion.
It is. There's not
Oh,
even
God.
a bathroom or a kitchen
Hello.
in here. Well, you would not like this place.
Oh god. Fake,
I got bit by a
fake
mimic.
floor. Just
Oh
me.
no!
How's your wall
Don't
jump
do
skills
that.
there,
Don't let the mimics
decent.
win.
Why, is there a way up?
Yep.
Okay.
Over here. Remember?
Is that Tweek's ultimate weakness? Is animate books?
Made it.
Am I supposed to bully these boos
animate
or
books?
just hanging
Oh my gosh,
out?
the written word can become animate? That's terrifying.
Oh no!
Why do they almost think they're evil? Almost dead. One more time.
I remember Chalk Zone where the kid had
Oh.
that one chalk that made everything alive.
There's a
when
second King
he
Boo
drew
up
with
here.
it.
I just bounce it up here. Nope. Nope. I need to do the
Bounce.
part.
Boo seems happy to see you.
Oh gosh, I killed the new Boo.
The
new
new
Okay.
The Ubu.
Finally got up here.
boo. You gave him a boo-boo.
Ubu?
Please don't ubu to ubu.
Ubu.
Ooh.
Oh no. Tweek's becoming a
Boo-boo.
YouTuber.
Ara, Ara.
Or
Oh no!
Waka waka?
Waka waka.
I can't hurt this boo.
No, I wanted.
Keep turning
no.
invisible.
I wanted the free life. Damn it.
I wanted the free life.
I just need a life. Wait, what?
So, which red coin are we missing?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Oh.
Like, we're so close. We got
Ow.
7 out of 8? Yeah.
I hit my butt.
Okay, I know I got the one over there.
Get the one in the book room. Then. Yeah, I got the one in the book room. Wait, we need the ghost camp probably. Because some of the rooms can only be accessed through the walls.
Oh, you're right. Until we unlock the ghost cap.
Probably
Yeah,
in that
right.
one of the eyeball, I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh, well. Okay. Well, we did quite a few stars in here, so that's
I'm
not
just
bad.
out here doing stuff.
I know.
Just make sure
Oh.
you exit the castle instead of exit course, so you
Oh, remember, if you
damage.
get 100 coins, you also get a star.
Oh, yeah. Did anyone do Peach's slide ride yet, by the way?
I don't know.
I went in there, but I didn't. But we were going in Bowser's.
Oh,
I
fair.
just need 2
I
more
didn't finish
coins
it.
and I can
Full
get a star
speed!
from it.
Woohoo! Oh god, it's too fast! I'm too fast! I'm not gonna be able to turn!
You have no drift
Oh, okay.
control. What are you doing? Oh, that's a bad idea.
Oh.
Oh, we need the railings there. Tweek.
The railing saved my life. Okay.
You're in danger. Oh, you actually made it from far up. I'm surprised.
I made it in 17 seconds. Is that another star?
Yeah, that's the speed star. Then you can get the one from the box.
Places to go, gotta follow
You
the
could have just
rainbow.
really destroyed that course.
Oh yeah, that was fast.
I'm gonna
I mean,
come down and see
through,
if I can.
through sheer luck. But, you know.
Huh.
Through sheer luck and panic.
I burnt my booty.
Oh, do you need me to kiss it better?
Oh, I fell
Yes.
off the course. I'm dead. Are you still here, Tweek?
Is there
Yeah.
only 8 coins here? Oh, someone's
Yeah,
already
red
gotten
ones.
that one.
Oh, I was trying to go back up the course. It didn't work.
There you go. I smooched you. All better
Oh,
now.
we're dead.
It's hard to focus
Go
on
to
things
smoke.
and also talk in this game. I'm incapable of doing both.
Oh my
Really
gosh,
cleared the
Flying
Bowser level,
Sonic!
right?
Woo!
Was everything cleared in the Bowser level, including the red?
Oh wait, is someone
Red
else in this
coins were
flying?
cleared. Yes.
Oh, we could actually destroy the flying level easily if we all get different coins now.
I already got the red coins in the flying level.
Oh, okay.
Well, heck.
Then out I go. Whee!
Oh. Well, okay. Well, it looks like someone already got that star, too.
Oh,
I accidentally grabbed it.
how's it going?
Whoa!
We have no coordination.
Just alright. Just attack. We already have 26 stars. 30 stars to get to Bowser. Okay, got it.
Wow!
Did we get the basement
Ah!
key? The top floor key?
You only need a few more
Not yet.
stars. Does
I-
it tell you what stars we got in each
When you
level
go into
in
a
case we
world,
have to
yes.
backtrack to areas?
Yep.
We haven't got any of the caps yet, have we?
We got the flying one.
Okay, we need to get the ghost cap. We drained the outside moat.
Yep, the outside string.
I know where the ghost cap is. I'm gonna go get that.
I think I'm actually on my way. Without attempting to be on my way.
Well,
I got an extra life, baby.
The metal
I only have
cap
one
is
life to
here?
live. It's not good. No, this is 10 points. Alright, heck it.
What does this eyeball do?
Okay, I got 4 of the red coins in the ghost cap area.
You can run around it to get a blue coin.
Oh, I don't. Okay, I did it.
Hey, I need that one up. Yay!
Oh wait, are you in here too? Oh, you are.
Yep.
I was like, I just heard Mario noises behind me.
You're being chased by a pack.
Okay, 5 red coins. 6
Why are we
red
missing our
coins.
star here?
I mean, sometimes you have to go back to a level just because the way it generates. So
Yeah,
that could be it.
The level shifts a little bit.
Oh, God. Oh god. Oh god, please.
No,
Oh.
there was only like one
Oh.
star left in this level, and I can't find it.
Thankfully, I won't die in that level.
Vanish caps are now active.
Huzzah! We can be ghosts again.
Uh,
Or I can be a ghost again.
I got the
Kinda.
red coin star.
Oh,
I think. Oh yeah, you just become a ghost Pac-Man. That's interesting.
Close enough.
The castle basement.
Damn it.
What the? Oh god, I can't swim. Okay. I started drowning immediately as I came into the level.
I was about to say, how are you going to get out of that one? It looked like you're in a pit there.
Moving around at the speed of Sonic, gotta run in circles because I don't know what I'm doing.
Who does? I fell.
Oh. Don't fall. That's dangerous. It could hurt your pack booty.
Okay, I won't fall if you don't drown.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
That's
I'll do my
not a
best.
promise that we easily made.
Oh boy.
Okay, where is everybody at? We got Womp's Fortress, Hazy Maze Cave. Oh, there's a lot of people in Hazy Maze Cave. That's a hard one.
Oh, we gotta go to the submarine level and clear that to get to the second boss fight.
Balvin, are you sleeping in front of Magmaland?
What?
Oh, we need
I'm upset about it.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go to Magmaland. Where's the door?
Oh, you guys already got most of the stars in Magmaland.
What's missing?
Hotfoot in the volcano is one of them, so I'm headed for that.
One. Hey, yeah, that can be a frustrating one, especially if you're not used to this old janky 3D platforming. Interestingly enough, it did not put me right away into the volcano. I guess it doesn't go by others' checkpoints.
Yeah, unfortunately. I had to run to the volcano.
Oh, I just burned my butt.
I burned my butt immediately, too.
Ooh, there's a big oil pit.
So you're already in here, Tweek, huh?
Yeah, I'm messing around.
It's now active.
I don't know what we all need, but... Oh, metal caps are active, too? Wow. Oh,
I just went and got it, yeah.
Nice. We just need to get this. We need to get the star in this volcano itself. So climbing all the way to the top.
Okay, there's one. Oh, there's another star up there. Like in the middle?
Oh,
the
I'll go
volcano?
grab it.
How do we get to that?
Oh, I burnt my butt! Burnt my butt!
Stop burning your butt!
You know what? I'm gonna try for it. Oh, I missed! Ow. I tried to do a jump all the way to the center star from the top of the volcano. I thought it was a good idea. Oh god! Ah, my butt!
I found him!
Yes, got it!
Oh, that's the platform. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where you had to go. How's it going up there?
I got alright. I hate heights, by the way, so this is kind of scary.
That is fair.
I legit have extreme fear of heights in real life. So sometimes I have
I
it does actually trigger it a little bit. I'm gonna wait till I can get somewhere solid. Oh, I forgot I had to grab that. I saved it. Oh my god.
So where do those platforms start from? Oh, over there.
If you can get to me, I'll try to pop the bubble.
Oh, okay, I'll come over there. Whee! Yay!
Hey,
That-
teamwork.
That was weird. It's like, oh! Hi, bully.
Then you can get a coin out of them.
I'm gonna try jumping from the top again, because I think I was really close.
Alright, we'll see which one gets there first. I'll use the elevators, you do the speedrun tactic.
Yeah, the not probably gonna work speedrun technique,
You never know.
but could.
I don't wanna. Gotta zoom out a little bit.
Oh, there was a life
I heard
there?
it.
Oh,
Apparently so.
it just sucked into me.
Some lives actually
damn
did not
it.
run away from you in this game.
Oh,
Oh, farts. I'm dead.
no.
Don't die, Tweek. Don't die. I'm near the heart on the platform. Where are you?
Oh, you're on the hard platform? Okay. I'm just a little bit below it.
Actually, it's a good place to get some health from.
Yeah.
It's up here, actually.
Boop.
Thank you. Oh, I get all my life back. Nice. Now, let me try that.
Oh,
jump
we got
pad
enough
here
to do second Bowser if we want.
Second Bowser.
Oh, I burnt my butt again.
Whoa, I overshot that. Okay. I'm overshooting everything. Okay.
boy bounced me off the
I got it. Oh,
battlement part.
the jump worked.
I'm not making any
It just
sense
took
here.
like 7 attempts.
Okay, so we can leave this place?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, I'll just fire.
Time to go to Bow Wow.
I gotta find. I gotta.
Oh, hi.
It was like in
Thanks.
the basement somewhere.
There's
Basement
another
Bow
star
Wow.
in here, but I don't know how to get to it.
Yeah, I saw
Wow.
that.
Sorry, I'm missing.
That one. I think we. Oh my god. Stupid dinosaur keeps twitching under me.
Oh, I want to go in the maze
There's
caverns.
a door over there. I'm just
That's a
waiting
good
for this dinosaur to get to. It's just
Oh, we
taking
gotta
its
do
sweet
Bowser's
ass
sub
time.
first. You're right.
Why can't we swim? Shouldn't we be able to
Oh
swim?
no, it's an all water level.
Yeah, you can
Oh,
swim.
There we
Oh.
go.
Hold A and you'll go fast.
Oh, there we go.
At least as that character.
Ah,
I'm Metal Pac-Man. This feels weird. I'm very blue.
How do I swim up? Hello?
Hold, like, press down on the stick, like, it's like flight controls.
You can actually
Like,
reverse
hold down on the stick and you'll angle yourself up. And if you press forwards,
There we
you'll go
go.
down.
Well, I'm in another water
Yeah.
level. I think it's the right one.
I'm rock and stoning by getting
Are there
rocks in my
sharks?
face.
Are there sharks?
no, but there's giant eels that try to eat you alive.
Wait, I feel like I was in there.
Okay.
Bring that one up. Thank you.
I got the board Bowser substar.
Ow. I am in pain.
Why is there
I have
like
broken my butt.
6 red coins in the same spot in here? That's a lot of
Oh no,
them.
oh
Hurting
no.
myself.
Oh no, not a good idea. Not a good idea.
Is that all I needed to open Bowser, I think? Was to get the substar?
Well,
Yeah,
screw that place.
I think so at least.
Yes, you're right. Now it's in behind. Perfect.
But I'll be at the Bowser door.
Into Bowser. I just went into the
I
second
want to go
Bowser.
there. When's second Bowser?
Wait, you went through a well. Where the hell is that?
Well,
It's in the basement. So there's a star door like right as you enter the basement through the key door.
Oh, okay.
I can always take people there if you want. I haven't gone that far.
That's just, yeah.
I'm already
Okay.
in the basement somewhere.
So
The door and top of
I'll
the
come
ledge over
down.
here.
I just respawned at the castle.
Okay, I found everybody else that's lost.
Wait,
We're
okay,
all
this
lost
way.
together.
Okay.
Okay, the well is in here. This door.
Wait, which one do you
What?
guys?
That's where I just was.
I was showing Sud.
Oh.
She was asking about where it was.
Oh.
Oh wait, are you guys trying to get
What?
Bowser or the?
They were trying to find. Hey.
Oh, you're all trying to do this course. Ah,
Sure, I'll go wherever.
Bowser's
started
this
it.
way. If you guys wanna.
And burned his butt. I like how we can all risk like Three Stooges through the door.
Yeah.
So it's this door over here.
Okay, so it was this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we hop
So I
down
jumped
that.
in the water. I didn't go down.
Yeah, you want to go down.
Oh, Bart. Well, I forgot how to jump down.
Oh boy, lots of
Poison
lava.
fire.
I
Yeah.
don't think I can swim in this.
Bowser's
No,
Lava
nobody
World.
can.
I don't remember ever giving my character a name, so do I even have a name right
Oh
now?
my gosh, you actually saved me.
Alvin.
You launched me onto the platform.
Parkour!
So how's everybody doing?
We died.
Oh no.
Here's somebody in some
No, I'm
trouble.
fine. I'm fine.
I'm fine. Everything's fine.
It's all good.
We're all fine here. How are you?
It's not. It's not fine. It's not fine.
That was a sudden screech if I ever heard one.
Oh,
Yeah.
how do we get that? How do we get that red coin under the platform?
Where
what platform?
There. Oh, you have to wait for it to lift up a little bit so you can jump there.
Oh, I have to.
Controller cans,
That's how.
like please.
Okay, I can always wait on this lifting platform for someone to grab the red coin.
What? What?
I'm trying to pop. I can pop the bubble. Hey,
Huh?
if you, who's in that bubble?
Me.
If you float towards us, you can hold down to your Z or your crouch button to float down.
Hello. I've been popped.
Excellent. Oh my gosh.
I can't see.
Terrible.
That looked horrifying.
That was terrible. I'm scared. I want to go home.
Jeez. No.
At least you can
Got
come get
number
pumped,
4.
Wes.
I got electrocuted and then burned in lava. That's like worse than like capital punishment.
There's a lot. This is a nice safe room,
Yay!
actually, honestly. Oh, okay, I'll get the next elevator.
See if I can jump it.
We'll figure this out.
Oh, never mind.
I don't know what that platform's for, honestly, that you guys are on.
There was a red coin down there.
Oh, there was a red coin, okay. So you want to go to
Here's
these
red
poles
coin.
over where I am.
If you hold your jump button on the netting, you will climb. For those that don't know Mario 64.
Okay.
No!
I mean, if you guys bubble again, I'm just at the top of those poles.
What, are you trying to encourage us to bubble on purpose?
Oh no, it's just if it happens, I'm at a safe zone.
Oh,
Hey, you did it!
amazing.
Excellent. And that's the elevator up to the next spot. I haven't gone up there yet, though. Hey. Oh no! No! The elevator already left.
Sorry.
How are we doing on red coins? We got 6 out of 8. Nice.
7.
7.
It's fine. I'm getting a hard carry.
I mean, I think everyone getting stars is just making it easier for everyone.
Oh, okay.
At this point.
Well, shoot.
That was weird.
That works.
Oh!
I think it's something up
my
here.
camera. Oh god. What is
I
happening?
remember you can get
There
to
we
the
go.
top of this by wall jumping, so I'm gonna try
Oh, God.
to get up here. Yep, there's something up here.
Ah. Okay.
What's that bully up there for?
Another one up.
Nice.
And
Is someone up over all the way over here?
Ah!
I got the last red coin. Good star, whoever
Excellent.
is near it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure. Last time it was behind the pipe where Bowser's final area was. Oh, hey,
Really?
Soot.
Bowser here?
Thanks for just completely abandoning. We haven't done this, Bowser.
What?
yet.
I
Oh,
didn't know
God.
you were there.
Oh,
You
what?
went so fast. I couldn't even see it. Oh, no, Rhino!
I'm gonna go fight Bowser.
Okay, where'd you
Oh,
where'd you
no.
go
Are you gonna
now?
come get this star?
You jumped
with
in the
me?
thing before unbubbling me.
Oh, I didn't see you were bubbled. Sorry.
I'm almost there.
Oh, I'm sliding down. Bowser, don't eat me.
I hate how everything I touch hurts.
No! Oh, hello.
Hi.
me unbubble you here.
Free.
Kibata!
How dare you?
Yes.
You coming?
Oh, God! Oh, God,
Okay,
grab
that
it, grab it, climb! Oh. Okay,
I'm
we're
in
good.
danger. Bowser's trying to kill me. I have 1 health. Oh! Nice. That teleporting is cheating.
I mean, that works.
Please. Oh, I made it
Oh, wait.
finally.
Oh, hey, how's it
Oh,
going?
A star.
Look, your eyes are so beautiful.
Oh. Shit.
Look out, I'm swinging a Bowser. Aim this way. It's right next
Okay.
to me. That's not.
No, not in the lava.
I'm currently at the boss. I'm just waiting
Stop
Thank
it.
you for
for
letting me
people on the
out.
boss already.
Got him. First try.
I got the red coin star there.
Oh, jeez, what's happening here? Oh my God!
Whoa, whoa,
Bowser.
whoa. Oh,
Kicking his
I
ass.
fell in.
Oh,
Oh,
hello.
okay. He's already dead.
Yeah,
Hi,
Bowser's
Bowser.
been murdered.
Did anybody get the red star coin or the red
We did.
coin star?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Who's gonna get the key? Oh, who's gonna get the key?
Me! Got it.
Oh, what? Oh, you
Oh,
both
and me.
got it. Oh,
Double keys.
oh.
He had a backup. You know, he keeps losing it.
Oh god, we're both like in the.
We are
we have-
monstrosity of abomination.
So now we have to exit the castle again. We are speed running Mario 64.
Huh.
I'm trying to be.
Okay, now where to?
So now you go up the stairs.
I'm
Yeah.
exiting to castle, you said?
Is it the big lock, the big door now?
Yeah, the big locked door up
I'm
the stairs.
gonna open it.
Or are we going to Tiny Big World? Is that what this one is?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Ooh, Tiny Big World.
Oh, no, wait.
No, this is not Tiny Big World.
Oh, is this the mountain, right?
Wait, here's my question about Tiny Big World. Well, some of us actually.
No, it crashed.
It did
crashed
crash.
for me too.
It's because it
Oh,
crashed
no.
on my end that time, but that is all right because it saves every time we grab a star, so it's not like we
Yeah,
lost
that's
anything.
fine.
I'm noticing my overalls are very pink.
Do we want to, since it crashed anyway, do we want to try one of the other game modes when I reloaded it?
Like hide and seek.
Yeah,
sure.
like the hide and seek or the flood.
Deathmatch
or
actually looked fun, or the arena.
the arena's pretty fun, yeah. Too. We can try any of them. We'll try a couple. Let's try hide and seek to start. Just, I bet that's an easy one.
Stop doubling the.
All right.
Please.
Host.
Oh, hi everybody. Wait, let me try to get. I am metal.
So
I'm
if you're a seeker, you have the metal virus, and you have to try
But
and infect everyone.
I lost my thing completely.
Well, you just have to turn your character back on. You still have your textures. They just don't show while you're.
But there was only one
while you're
hider.
metal.
That
Yeah.
wasn't fair. It was a black hedgehog.
So yeah. So don't change your palettes. Just turn your characters back on.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Whoever's not metal, you have to hide and run to get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, am I supposed
Seekers
to
win.
wait?
Well, no. Everyone's metal at the moment. It's doing a countdown to the next round. So anyone who's metal has to wait out here for a few seconds while everyone who's not metal goes to hide.
Otherwise, we're cheating.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone who's
now
not
we're-
metal, try and go hide in the castle.
Oh,
Do we just go after you guys now or wait?
I would wait till it's like at 140 or so, because that gives us enough time to run into a level.
There is someone over here that's
House rules should probably be once you're in a level, you probably shouldn't leave, because that would be kind of annoying.
Okay, whoever's zipping around, they want to hide.
I mean,
10
you kind of
seconds.
set it. Oh, and any seekers, if you hold the back button, you can see what level people are hiding in. So it's not like, you know, you can't find us.
The four of you in Roger Bay. No, that's number 4. Number 4. Okay. Okay. Time's up. We're coming after you.
Yeah, get coming after us.
I hear somebody jumping here. Here is Castlemaine floor. That's me. Okay, Tweek's over there.
And anytime a seeker hits a hider, by the way, it gives them another like 120 seconds. So
Oh, Oh, okay.
I think anyway. Like if anyone who's metal touches someone who's hiding, it'll make them.
Why would it give this to me? I can't find anything. I can't even find my own hand in front of my face half the time.
That's fair. There should be a couple
There's at
people
least-
that are seekers.
Yeah, there's at least 2 people in the first level.
What the fuck was that sound? And you guys can't hide in the Can you hide inside the paintings?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
It'll tell you where we are though. If you hold the back
if you
button,
hold.
it'll tell you
Yeah.
which one.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's 2 people on Battlefield. 3 people.
I have a
how
yeah,
do
there's
I
3 people.
figure that
on
out?
it.
I don't know if I'm in an area that have anyone in it.
Waltz Fortress? No. No one's in there at the moment.
I don't know how to get out then.
Start and exit the castle. We'll kick you back in. Is someone coming up here? I think someone's running
Yeah,
out.
I think I'm the one on the same level as you.
We got 41
God,
seconds.
I
We
feel
gotta
so
find this person.
stupid.
Oh,
Oh, God, how would I ever
Oh,
catch Sonic if I had to seek Sonic?
Oh god.
I'm
back down here.
dumb
Uh-oh.
skills.
I tried to jump off the mountain to get away from Pac-Man, and I think I saw Pac-Man.
Wait, you're the one?
Whoa.
You're not middle? Oh, yeah, there you are. Get back here.
No!
Well, you just crashed.
Booger.
No!
Actually, you are green, so you would be a booger.
My game just crashed.
Oh, shoot.
no!
Ah!
Burger. Get you, burger. Don't let me call the Eggman.
Ah, it was a ploy. Oh god.
What are you? Oh, pull you out. Where'd you go?
Oh.
Wait, let me zoom out more. Frick, I lost you. Ah, dang it.
That's
I
alright.
mean,
So the hiders... Oh, wait. Where were you hiding in here?
what? Oh, I'm just like zipping
Out.
around.
Oh, okay. I was hiding in here. That's kind of right. So it'll pick new
Oh.
seekers again.
Oh, crap-a-doodle. Okay,
No one went to
I
where
have
I
to-
was. I'm
I
actually
have to leave
surprised.
these. I'm so
I
sad,
gotta
but I
run.
keep crashing on now.
I'm metal.
no.
Once I left the painting, I became metal again. Is that normal?
You're a seeker again.
Oh, because it made you a seeker. Yeah.
I'm going back outside to let people hide. Coming out the door, watch out.
I'd say just go. Just go
Yeah.
for it.
I'll just go.
You can look right
Okay.
away because everyone's...
Because we're all spread out.
Scattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good start. Gives extra time for the seekers this round, too.
Oh, I see someone's up here.
I can't leave the battlefield. No.
See you, Travada. Get back here! Get back here!
Why are there so many ball bombs? That's crazy.
It's Battlefield.
It's true.
I mean, they are kind of having a war there.
You're not evil, right, Brad? You're not a
No.
metal? Okay. I'm not metal either.
Okay.
I'm in Ball on Battlefield.
I'm just a little guy.
Oh, God.
Don't look for little
Oh.
things.
I just accidentally saw the stream in the corner of my eye. I'm kind of trying to not do that because that's
I just
cheating.
realized the
I win.
same
No, that's
thing.
fine.
And
I don't mind.
Nah, I don't feel right doing it though. There are a couple people here actually.
Thank you for the hydrate.
I see Koopa racing.
I gotta stop.
See a hat kid. Get back here, hat kid.
I see a boy speaking in this room.
a lot of you
Oh,
are
no.
involved on Battlefield.
Yeah, almost everybody's in Ball on Battlefield.
Okay, so I need to go in the castle and start looking for you guys. Thank you.
Yep. So we're all in that first painting on the left.
Oh no. I can't swim. I'm stupid.
There's a
Ah.
lot here. Okay.
I hope you're having a lovely
Yay,
day,
I got a
too,
star.
Kip.
Yes.
Hope you're whatever you're up to.
Oh yeah, you can still get stars for the save file while we're doing hide and seek. I totally forgot about that.
Open this up.
Let's see. Bomb
I
bombs.
think-
I think what are this first one?
I think it's because I think a bunch of people are in the Coop of the Quick instance of the Battlefield, and I'm in the regular one, so that might be why people aren't finding me.
I did know it's like there were icons over different stars. I could like to know like if you're in
Yeah.
reality of it.
No, there's
Yeah.
at least one seeker in here with me. I think that was Gamer.
I'm hanging out with
I
Chain
don't know what
Chomp.
you're talking about.
Whoa!
That's
I'm
good enough. The
hanging out
teleport
with the
still
Chain
works.
Chomp.
Oh, I see. Gamer and Rye are both in here.
Yeah, Gamer's a seeker. Oh, there he is.
Hi!
I'm stuck.
Right, it's not a seeker. Oh no, now they have another 180 seconds.
How do I
I'm stuck in here
know?
with both of them.
How do I know if anyone else
Wait.
is still in his instance?
If you hold your select or back button, you can see where.
Oh, there's like a
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4,
but that
5.
won't tell you if
Alright.
you're.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
does.
that's the
Yeah,
star
that
The
tells-
number actually does. Okay, cool.
yeah, the number at the end tells you the instance too.
Yeah, so I'm in star 1. No one else is in star 1 with me. So
Oh,
I'm good.
there will be soon.
What? No! No!
Check on see if you're doing
All right,
it.
Shanik.
I literally just ran straight
Should
up a
have
wall.
Ciabatta.
Gamer was chasing me, but
Oh gosh, oh my god. I heard you like coming.
Wow.
Okay,
Oh,
so
someone's
general
in here.
I
I'm
So
guess we gotta
stupid.
get out of here.
So who's the last uninfected?
I've not been found.
Oh. Battlefield 2, good to know.
Yep.
Oh my
I did go
god.
sky for a moment to try to seek him out, and I couldn't find him.
Dun,
Wait.
dun, dun, dun.
Gotcha.
Aw.
You never really hidden in that leaf there.
Nice.
Ooh, we win.
Good one.
Okay.
I'm just sliding
Everybody
around.
wins because we're all
Okay.
seekers.
Now we gotta spread out because it's about to do the next round.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna get out of
Oh,
this.
if it turns you into a secret, it throws you outside the castle.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
Or it
okay.
just did me at least.
We're gonna go. We're gonna go. Run, man, run.
I was normal palette, but now I'm metal
palette?
palette again.
Yeah.
It's trying to
Oh, that
figure
makes
out
you a
who the
seeker.
Are you a seeker?
I don't know.
If you're like a
are
solid
you
color
metal?
instead of
there.
your normal palette, then you're a seeker.
No, why are you running from me then?
Am I running from you?
Why are you
Was that,
running?
was that not you?
Oh, I'm not. Oh, no, this is me. But I'm not running. I'm just kind of going around. Flying around at the speed of town.
At the speed of town.
Yeah,
Go very slowly because towns don't move.
exactly.
Works for me.
I like moving around at the speed of town.
This is risky. I'm not sure. Somebody's going to find me here, but let's see how long it takes somebody to find me.
I chose a weird level to hide in.
I'm heading in a very interesting spot.
Which one's that?
You can see on the back.
Oh, yeah, you're just in a different instance.
Oh, you guys all came here too. Oh,
I went to the one that
You'll never find me.
had an ungotten star.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Keep getting
So it looks like
stuck.
the grayed out names are the Seekers, right? It looks like that. Tweek, General, and Mal.
No, I'm not a seeker.
I am.
Oh, no, you have a darker color, that's why. Ryan, Mal
I'm not a-
have lighter gray.
Yeah, I'm not a seeker.
Oh, then I don't know what's going on. Who's Seeker and who's not?
Yeah, I'm not
About
sure how
a
to
now, I
actually-
think. But
Oh, okay, the name color does not matter at all.
I feel so bad that you're stuck with me.
Oh, sleep, Pac-Man, you gotta be ready to run. Oh, no one's coming to my level. Cool.
You got some free time until there's like 5 seekers, then they're all gonna come to your level.
Y'all never find me!
Well, when I become a hider, I will have a good spot.
Where is Big Boo
Maybe I
Haunt
should take a...
3? Big Boo Haunt 3, Castle Ground.
That was scary. I just saw somebody.
The arena's pretty fun. The only thing we have to be careful of in arena is I don't know if non-Mario characters work well in arena.
Oh, okay.
I was able to play, like, well, I didn't get out doing it by myself. I was able to play as Pac-Man at least.
Oh, okay, that's good. I know Sonic doesn't necessarily work
No.
in arena, but I don't know what the other ones are. But I can always be
9 seconds to
Waluigi.
find me!
oh,
4, 3, 2, 1, victory!
Oh!
Hi.
Oh, and you just became a seeker. Wow.
that means does that mean Ryan loses?
And nobody even came to my level.
Well, no, because the round was over.
Oh, I have a slide tackle?
Damn it, I
if you
became
run
a
forward-
seeker again. Why
Oh,
can't
damn
I
it.
ever
Oh,
be
I'm
a
a-
oh,
hider?
God.
I
again,
want to
okay.
hide.
Or,
And I'm gonna
I'm
run
a
away
hider.
from you.
I'm a hider.
Bye.
Blah, 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 blah.
I never
Wait,
am
who
allowed
got
to
seekers this time?
hide. Hey, get your ass back
Malvin.
here.
Is a seeker.
For the 3rd time in a row, mind you.
I'm trapped. Uh-oh.
You son of a
Uh-oh,
bitch.
Rise now, seeker. Uh-oh. Uh-oh,
Wait, what?
run.
How?
I don't know. Oh, did you die in a level? If you die in a level.
I left the. I went exit course.
How?
Oh, that's why, yeah. Exit course is, it takes a
Yep.
life from you instead of exit to castle.
Oh, rude.
Okay.
Yeah. So it counted as you falling out. I forgot about that too, by the way, in hide and seek. If you fall out of the level and die, then you get infected anyway.
How do I...
No. No, I see you
easy.
entering Big Boo's haunt.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna come here. But if they do, I have things I could use against them. Like bombs.
There's nothing here. Don't worry. Nothing here.
I don't know this level at all.
That's fair.
Ah, it's piano.
I hear the piano attacking.
Oh, that monkey's trying to take my hat.
I could give you a hint. Boo. Wow, I think I literally saw you kill something.
Oh,
Now
I
that's
accidentally
an
fell
extra
asleep.
ghost. That's an extra ghost for the level.
I don't know where Ciabatta went, because I saw him go in here and then he's gone.
That's fair.
Man, I could actually just put a gamepad down and take a nap. Wait, nobody's coming in on this level. I'm kind of feeling sad and alone.
You can tell me where
No
you
one's
are.
coming to this level either. I feel the same.
the room with the 3 windows, Miles.
Oh,
It's
hi.
a very
Oh,
tiny
Yeah.
portion of the
oh,
mushroom.
I thought I was following you. I think you'd go, oh, well, okay, let's go get him.
Alright.
Let's get him. Oh, wait, we gotta exit the castle.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no one's here.
Okay, so what do we have? We have Tall Tall Mountain number 1.
Maybe.
Bulb on Battlefield number... We could probably get Bulb on Battlefield number 5 really quick.
Oh, yeah, that'll. Yeah.
We're coming for you, Soot.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
I'm just a little fishy trying to find people. And I'm lost.
Bulb on Battlefield number 5, let's go.
Is this not a painting for us to go through?
Oh, you're so
which one are you
fast.
trying to go through? Not all paintings work.
Where are you,
Depends
Soot?
on
Ah, balls.
I'm
the level you're on.
I mean, you don't have to tell me. I'm
No
seeing you,
one's
but...
here.
I am
I can see
within
where
the
you are.
environment.
Yeah, you need to
It's in the tree.
if you're trying to find me, you're looking for a very tiny picture with mushrooms on it.
Oh, you're in the... Oh, because I guess the different versions are like the big and small ones.
Yeah, I
right?
went to the giant picture with the mushrooms, and it,
No,
it had no one in it.
It's a tiny picture in the hall area.
Oh my gosh, I see where she
Oh,
is.
there's a...
No!
Oh god.
You do.
Yeah, she's on the tree
There's
on
a
the
tiny one?
floating
Oh,
island.
I see. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
It's like it looks like
There's no one in there either, I don't think.
You gotta jump on it just right, otherwise you
Get
bounce off
up.
the wall.
Get
Oh no, you're in the.
She just left
huge
the
room. You
island
have to
right
leave
as I
that
got
room-
there.
You have to leave that room out and
Okay.
stop the main pearl room hall. Staircase.
It's so fast.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm stupid and I can't find it. I'm not good at anything.
That's fine.
We're very dumb.
Oh, I tried.
Game's
Oh!
getting
Got her.
back.
Yeah, okay. On to the next person.
Am I
Okay,
tall mountain.
hider?
Going up.
Yeah,
Okay, I
I'm
don't know where to go
up
for
there,
that, so I'll follow you.
It's upstairs.
Okay.
I have a feeling Tweek might be able to know where I'm hiding, so I better be on my guard and stop messing.
Okay. The only question for me is, I don't know. Is it this one? I think it's this one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, follow Tweek. He knows the way.
Picture.
Oh, there's a star right there.
You'll never find me.
And Tweek's dead.
Tweek is
I
dead.
got such a good.
However, now I'm a drone, and I can scour the whole island in bubble form.
And you popped your bubble on a hider?
I don't know.
I'm watching your stream to just see where you see where I see where you see where I see. That was very English.
I'm a little fish.
Man, you have actually not found me yet, Tweek. That's surprising.
Nope, there's no one in here either.
Trying to find where Tall Mountain is.
Oh, you're not.
I'm gonna
I thought you were at the
find-
cannon spot down underneath, because I know that's a tricky
Nope.
spot to get to.
I'm in a surprisingly sneaky but cheaty spot. You'll find me. I'm not gonna give you any hints though, because you play this game. I'm sure you.
Yeah,
know
that's
where it
right.
is.
He's played pretty much like every Nintendo game religiously.
I did the little fish. Come on.
All sweet me.
Give me a pity find. Like, please.
Oh crap! I want
The bubble! The bubble!
Where was
No
he?
one's in this
Yeah.
world
At the
either.
start of the level.
Oh my God.
I went backwards where there's a hidden mushroom.
Yeah.
That's where I was hiding. I was like, I saw you two enter the game.
So
like,
you can infect people from a bubble.
That's not. Come
Death
on.
from above.
Okay.
You earned that one.
Who do we
Go
have
on.
left? The Princess Secret Slide. Oh. Interesting.
It's in.
After
that?
him.
So that's at
where the
st-
hell is that?
So that's at the very start.
Go
It's
main
just
one to the castle at the first
yeah.
floor.
It's also a dead end, so I cannot run away.
it's on the right. Yeah.
Kinda,
Maybe
like,
someone's hiding with all the
screwed
booze.
yourself over.
I
Should be-
didn't think about how much of a dead end it was.
You're in danger.
Full speed! I have no
Wait.
control
No
of
one's
it.
hiding with the booze.
Oh yeah, the problem is we have to do the slide to get to him.
What?
Yeah. Or
Mario
do you?
skills, don't let me down now.
I don't get it. What did you guys do?
You jump through the window on your right to get
Yeah,
into the slide.
like 3 windows in that small
Oh,
room.
Hey,
I
how's
tried
it
like
going,
5
Giovanna?
times to jump through that window and I just bounced off.
Hey, Giovanna, how's it going? How's it going, Giovanna?
Hey, buddy!
How's it going?
Come here, goat bread!
How's it going?
Oh, I fell off.
Is anyone in this world?
Where did he go?
Oh, you popped me without getting infected.
Oh my god.
I don't even know
I
how
just
that
can't
happened.
find a world that anyone is in.
That's okay. We're not as good at.
Yeah, you kind of have to
Navigating.
know the. We could easily.
Yeah.
I could have easily done hide and seek on a starter file. Then Ball and Battlefield would have been the only available area.
How do we get out of
we
here?
you want to just pick one world for everybody to hide in?
That's not a bad idea, actually. Do we all want to exit a castle and then like pick a world?
That's true. I still gotta find it.
Better pick a big one.
Where's the one that I
Yeah.
keep seeing that I like?
I mean, Ball and Battlefield's pretty nice. Swamp Tower's pretty nice.
The mansion could be good.
Boo's Mansion's a good one. Yeah, that's
Many different areas to hide there. Follow me, let's go to the Boo Mansion.
Boo Mansion. Okay, let's all go to Boo Mansion.
Let's go
Oh, I
somewhere
gotta
else.
go to the
I'm
Boo
not-
Mansion? Oh. I went to where the sea was. But
Oh,
okay,
the
I'll
sea.
leave.
I mean, I'll
Where-
do a water level with everyone if you want to try a water level.
Okay, okay, we gotta make up our minds quick.
And
Oh, no.
it's now
Yeah,
made
yeah.
me a seeker because I left
That's a bad
the
person.
damn painting.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Run, scatter.
I was standing outside watching you
Oh, fuck,
just decide where to go.
That's
Yeah,
the bad
okay.
You get in
person.
first.
I'm in, Boo.
Get in. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you get in first.
I
Wait,
guess.
which?
I
Try to
guess.
get in.
I guess number
Run.
3
You can
is
get in
probably the
first.
easiest.
You can
Yeah.
go in the world.
All right.
Where I
Scatter.
Okay, number.
so I decided not to go in.
Yeah.
I don't
So
even know where
decided
the
not to
Boo's
win.
castle is.
It's the
Are
Are
courtyard.
we
in the
doing
back.
Boo's castle?
Yeah. There's a little.
Oh.
There's a little cage in the
Okay.
backyard. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you have to kill that one little ghost that has a cage. It's usually to the left.
No, it's the big
The
ghost.
exit. Big ghost. That's what I meant. I am nervous. I'm not really. Man, how many people are here? Everyone. I'm just trying to like keep moving.
I'm being made fun of by the thingy. I'm being made fun of.
Oh God.
Why do I hear a bomb?
I am fighting King Boo at the moment, just because he's in the way.
You need 50 stars to go to this door.
Right, I can get the ghost cap. You'll never find me. The ghost cap. Just
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm ever gonna find my way out.
This level is very hard to
It can be kind
navigate,
of amazing.
but I mean, I assume the seekers
I
are
think
already
I'm stuck.
seeking in here, right? Or are
I
you
think
coming
I
in and seeking?
have.
I'm in here at least.
Okay, yeah.
I
I
hear
don't think
somebody
I'm
getting
ever
attacked
allowed
by
to
the.
move again. I'm just stuck here.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
What can you describe any of it?
Oh, I'm just stupid. I keep going through the wrong door.
Who got me? Who was that?
I found it.
I did.
Oh, I saw to the void.
I
There's
am
nobody down there.
hearing. I am just hearing pure murder.
I'm dead.
Oh gosh. Okay.
I got you. Yeah.
Went in here.
Who is left now?
I finally found somebody.
Oh, I burned my butt.
Oh,
So yeah, so if you go through the wooden doors and then straight out into the backyard of the castle, that's where the Boo haunt is.
There's someone jumping in here.
So like if you're at the main entrance, you can go through the wooden doors and out the back. Oh, hello. No! Run, no!
Oh, now I gotta go all the way back up.
Long live the king. That was so
So
sad.
how do you get to the Boo Mansion?
I hear people out here.
So yeah, so if you're in the main floor of the castle, like where you hit exit the castle to go to, there's wooden doors on either side of the stairs, and then those go straight out to the back of the castle.
I accidentally got a star.
There's a cage in him.
And if you if you hop in the cage, that's the Boo's mansion.
Oh my god.
Oh, I just found it.
It's like a secret level. So we're all on stage 3 of it. Oh gee, oh, you scared me. Excellent. Wait, are we the only 2 uninfected? Oh, we're in the same spot.
Oh, seriously?
I think so.
Uh-oh.
This is fine.
To get up here, it's a little tricky.
Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised I didn't see anybody on the way back up here then.
Oh, interesting. I mean, we do have 4 people after us now in this level, so.
Hello? Avon calling.
Uh-oh.
I see you up there! Oh, fuck! Oh, God, this is too much fun. I see, somebody fell down? Somebody's out here. Somebody, hi! You just kind of like lagged the spot there for a while. I don't think it caught you, actually. Nope, yeah, you lagged out for me a little
Somebody
bit.
fell down.
Oh,
You go that way, I'll go the other way.
where did I
Were they
go?
were on the roof. I don't know how to get to the roof. Okay,
Back door.
not there. Yeah, back door.
Oh God,
Check out
no!
Go, got him. Give me that. Come on, I'll go the other way.
I love how I watched
Run,
it come
Tweek,
through
run.
the door.
I'm just watching.
Oh god! Oh god!
Oh no, Tweek knows how to get up here.
It's true.
I'm out of here.
Hey, get up there. I don't know. I don't know how you get up there.
Excellent.
Well,
If I can remember what door it is, it's not that
I'm
door.
not staying up here.
It's this door. Yeah. So if you go up the stairs, the door all the way on the right. Oh, hold on.
Oh, that jump there. I saw that. Gamer did that, but I couldn't make the jump.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a.
the tricky wall jump at an angle.
I can't. Oh, I can wall jump. Okay. I didn't think
Yeah.
I could wall jump.
The way I do is I cartwheel into the wall jump, and then kind of.
Yeah, I can only wall jump if I cartwheel.
Yeah, with my double jump, I didn't think I could actually wall jump.
Okay, he left already. We lost him.
Will you lose?
Don't know where it went. We lost him.
I hear him jumping over here.
Oh, I see him. He's in the back of the he's in the back of the mansion. He's running around the left-hand side. Here, he's going. He's going.
I had a
Oh
piano.
damn, is he going?
Yeah. Oh, I tried to tackle him, but he made it by. Hey, good attack from behind.
Or what was it?
Yeah.
I was trying to get to this door, but I was too slidey.
Okay. Do you want me to try a different game mode now?
Yeah.
That'd be a good idea, because it can
That's
be
fair.
frustrating, especially if you don't know the game's level.
Yeah. This one's a little tricky. Okay. Let's try.
Wow, my guy is running in place like crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't want to host. I want to go back.
So instead of hide and seek, we can do shell rush, which is like a weird Mario Kart. We can do flood, which is just jumping as high as you can. That one's not too bad.
I'm still kind of curious about the deathmatch one.
The arena. The arena's got, what has it got? Deathmatch. It's got King of the Hill. It's got like a whole bunch of different. Yeah, we can try that one next. I don't think I can play Sonic, so I'll have to see.
You can try, and if you die,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Sonic on. There we go. I am back. Okay.
on.
Yeah, I can't use the hammer. It doesn't do anything.
Oh, you have to use regular attack for that one.
My regular attack is
Yeah.
spin dash. Yeah.
Oh, then yeah, that was explaining. You can't use the hammer. It's more of a feature than a glitch. Okay, it's not.
Yeah.
Ooh, hammer. See someone down there.
Okay, deathmatch. First to 10 kills. I have died 3 times.
I do not understand.
We just have to ground pound, punch each other, grab items,
Yeah.
and shoot each other.
Attacks are
Oh,
either
there's
your
items.
attack button or what's Y on the Xbox controller. I'm burning. I'm dead.
Oh, okay,
I
I see now.
see.
I don't think I have any attacks. Like no attack
Wait.
button.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
maybe
Oh,
it's
wait,
bad
wait,
for
Oh,
us.
no, no! Oh, I fell off too.
I'm burning my butt.
I think I hit Mal and then also promptly died.
Let me. Okay,
Ow. That hurt me too.
Uh-oh, don't do it. We don't need to fight. We can murder everybody else.
Come back, son.
I know how much you want revenge
that
against
happened a
Jamada. Oh!
There, I got my
Apparently
first
that
kill. Leave me
doesn't-
alone.
Whoa, what? My gun, my face is a gun.
Oh yeah, that's one
Yep.
too.
Ah!
Brain
Ah!
thing. There we go.
Ah! Oh, bombs! Rude. Oh, I'm back.
Oh.
I just saw Tweek's name like fly off the level.
Yeah.
Ah! As I figure out how to fucking jump vertical.
Oh no!
Yes!
Oh.
Yes!
Get butt bounced.
Why must you kill me? I'm just a baby.
I don't know what I did.
I'm burning.
Rise
What the
and
hell? How do you ground pound?
wait, who's in
you press
first?
button
Mystic's
Z.
in first with 3
Whichever is
kills.
Z for you, which would be on a gamepad, left trigger.
Oh.
What the heck? I was trying to figure out how to crouch.
I'm sorry.
Tweek, are you there?
Yep.
Are you sitting there?
You bully.
I'm just trying to see if I can.
I'm sorry.
somehow toggle so I can actually attack with Sonic.
Ah.
Doesn't seem like it.
Where did that fire actually chase you? I don't remember
Yeah,
fire
it's got a little bit of heat seeking on it.
By the way, coins will restore your health if you can get them.
Oh, I could just like wait.
Chat, don't let them know. Because I don't even know
I
what
could
I'm
peek
doing.
over on the screen, but I'm not gonna do it still. Health, thank goodness.
I'm trying to figure out the fire
Bow, bow.
flower. Ow!
It's the Y button for fire flower.
Oh!
Set why? I know you're a fireman. Come on.
Ow!
Why would I even get loaded in here? My only option is to die. I can't jump far enough.
Oh,
Alright. This is unfortunate.
Oh!
I'm trying to. I'm just looking up a thing on the side while they're all murdering each other because I see all the sound tests going.
Oh,
I'm just hearing murder.
I'm a dumb little fish.
Oh, that's what I'm hearing.
That wasn't smart!
I'm trying to come after you, and I failed big time.
Oh, there's a new mod that adds Smash Bros as a game mode.
Really?
Yeah.
I want Hat Kid in Smash Bros for sure.
We can make our own Smash.
There's also a mod for a playable Goomba, but I haven't figured out how to turn it on. Like that's actually in here somewhere, but I don't know how to turn it on.
Just jumped off.
The fire comes back after you if it doesn't have anybody else.
Burnt by your own hubris.
Ah!
I'm a
I
dumb
Tweek, I
little
see you there.
No, you don't. I'm not here. I don't even see the Sonic character mod anymore. Oh, whoa, oh. That launched me
God
pretty
damn
far.
it,
Hey, I got 2 kills. I did a slaughter.
Ah! Whoa,
Oh,
whoa.
it's because I don't have a Y button. That could be why. Because I turned it off for that sound test.
Why?
Yeah, fall in the hole.
Okay.
I did, and so got the kill.
Oh, I blew
Oh,
myself
come on.
up like a doof. Oh gosh.
You both died.
Ow, that hammer hurts. Oh god, the fall damage.
Whoa!
Do I
Lloyd.
get a kill?
Oh, Mr.
How did I win? I wasn't even trying.
Kills
What?
and enough of us died.
Yeah, because you lose kills. if
Hammer
you
is
keep
so
dying.
good.
I'm not good at this game. Why did I win?
I hate this color palette on Waluigi, though.
Oh, that's too far to jump. I gotta remember not to do that from that angle. Oh, I guess we're doing it again. Okay, we oh gosh, it's
Burr,
big.
burr, burr. Burr, burr, burr.
So did this all fly into the void?
Nope, that's me.
Oh, I.
Burr, burr.
Oh my gosh. I see you up there flying overhead.
Oh, man.
Bow,
What?
bow, 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 bow. Bow, bow, bow. Bow, bow, bow. Bow, bow, bow. I barely even was alive for 2 seconds.
My first kill of this game. Woo!
Uh-oh.
Like, of this game
Oh,
mode,
neat.
not even this game. Whoa, Waluigi has a huge wall jump.
Well, he got big legs.
anymore.
I am now Metal Waluigi! Incoming!
I'm in danger.
I am in danger.
Right, Tweek.
That's fine, I can't die. Oh, what?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, the metal one lets you die? Oh.
Yeah, the metal doesn't actually do a lot, it seemed like.
Oh, weird.
I'm going for this coin. Ah, health. Okay, does everybody know how to long jump, by the way?
No.
If you crouch right
Okay.
before
Depends
you.
on the character.
Basically, you just keep running full tilt, and as you're running, hold the crouch button and then hit jump.
Oh yeah, I
do a
forgot
long
about
jump.
that.
Very useful to have large gaps.
Get back here.
No, you're cheating. Get burned.
Woo!
Burn the bridge. Burn the
Oh man, I've died so much to fall damage as
What?
opposed to
Tweek
everything
got
else.
that kill?
Yeah,
That
I
is
actually almost killed
bullshit.
myself dropping down after you.
I guess fall damage? What bullshit?
Later. No, please, please, mercy. Come on, jump, wall jump, you booger. There. Oh.
Oh my god, the hammer's so strong.
Oh, it's back. I just spawned in. Come on, man.
No!
It's like Crazy Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, that happened. I'm after this coin. Get back here, slut.
Lol.
I died.
How dare you burn my butt?
Fire is fun.
Fire is fun.
Oh god.
I have become Bullet Bill.
Okay.
That Bullet Bill thing actually stinks.
Yeah,
I'm not using
you have
that
to
again.
charge it. Yeah, that's the only way it does.
Oh, there's a charge. Oh, right.
Yeah.
What?
Right now I remember.
Yeah, the bullet bill you can hold it to charge. It does like a big cannonball. That does a lot more
Oh.
damage.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
The other one's good for spamming, but that's only in the crowd, I'd figure.
I cannot stay
I can't
on.
wall jump. Did they disable the wall jump? Oh, fart.
No.
No,
Wow,
I'm just dead.
wow, wow.
No, I can wall jump.
I just was not at the right angle for it. Okay, good to know.
No, I don't wanna. I said no, thank you.
Good day, sir. No, thank you.
You didn't kill me. I just jumped off the ledge.
Excellent. Twas a murder. Twas a night of murder. Oh god! Waluigi, please don't swim off the ledge and kill yourself.
Whoa.
There are no
Ow.
promises for that. No,
What am I
thank you.
doing?
I don't know.
I said no, thank you, Chibata.
Oh, no, I can't use the charge tech because my dad.
I'm here to talk to you about your car's extended warranty.
No thanks.
Oh god, there's too many hammers.
I said I don't want your box, Shibata.
Have you heard of our Lord and Savior, Waluigi?
False god, false god. Ow! Fuck, I'm burning, but I have bombs.
Bow, bow, bow. Bam, 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 bam.
Get back here, you bread!
Oh, fuck.
Oh.
Fall damage killed me.
Get back here, son! I need... It's hammer time! It's
What's this?
hammer
Hello?
time!
Around Pac-Man. Not Mario.
Oh.
Oh god, I fell to my death.
Ah, wow,
Oh,
wow,
it takes away a kill if you kill yourself. I didn't realize that.
Oh.
Deathmatch rolls.
Oh, I've been doing that a lot.
I think there's different stages too, as well. Like we can... I don't know how to... I have to look up how to pick up the stage.
Wait, what?
You missed.
Ah.
Ah, got the bomb.
Uh-oh. Nope. Nope.
Uh-oh.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
Point.
Control jam!
Nope.
Control jam!
Oh!
Death by gluten.
Wow, I was already dead. So it wants murder. So
Ouch.
it wants all the murder.
I win!
Hey, Rye wins.
Wee.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, how do I...
One dead
Second.
back.
Da 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 da.
So arena level, origin, sky beach, pillars, forts, and platforms. Game mode: deathmatch, team deathmatch, capture the flag, king of the hill, random.
I thought.
I didn't know you could do that, but I guess it makes sense.
Name tag, pop up.
Ow! Right on my face, really. Yeah, well, you can play that game, son. Come here. Oh, you jumped up the level, didn't you?
I keep killing myself. Fuck!
Refuse.
Oh, hello! Game Studio, hello, thank you for raiding.
Hi!
Hi.
Were you streaming more High on Life? I'm not sure what you were streaming.
Incoming Sonic Cannonball!
Oh god.
Very much chaos.
Oh,
I
metal
kinda
just
love
makes it so you have a ton of health.
Ah, you didn't get that kill tomorrow.
Yay, more High on
What?
Life!
That is some bullshit.
Oh, name tags. Arena level, that's it. Slash arena. Slash arena level Sky Beach.
Hammer you. Oh,
I protect.
Sorry, this is Sky Beach.
I just
Slash.
got headshot. So
I just got teleported.
Me too.
It restarted the round.
I was trying
Is
to.
it-
I was trying to start another level, but it didn't quite. Hold on. Arena level origin, Sky Beach. Oh, it's forts or pillars. Do you guys want forts, pillars, or platforms?
Ah.
What might be interesting? Yes.
So the hammer also has a rolling smash attack. Like a dash.
Aiming is kind of difficult with the bombs.
They're really strong if you get used to them, though.
There we go, forts.
Oh.
Okay.
So
And
And if you
Okay.
might not to hit yourself.
Hold on, I want to use the game mode
Oh,
too.
no.
Arena dash game mode. What just happened? Did it crash?
No?
Okay.
Or maybe? No?
Uh-oh.
Wait, can we do
Arena.
team deathmatch?
Yeah. There's actually a capture the flag that could be fun too.
Oh.
There we go. Red
Why
team or
am I
blue
blue?
team? Yep, it's 3v3. Tweek, Ryan, Melvin all on blue. Okay, let's go get their flag.
I already captured yours.
Okay.
What?
Wait.
Somehow. I spawned with your flag.
I'm on. Oh shit. I
Come on,
don't know what one I'm on. Shit.
Excellent, we got their flag.
Drop that flag if you know it's good for you. Drop that flag if you know it's good for you.
This color code is based on flag.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got a flag back.
I'm trying. Well, I guess we'll just take their flag.
Need help.
Oh god.
Flag's running.
Mike's back.
Come on. Yeah. No.
Oh! Oh fuck.
Sanics.
The
Just
Sonic
gonna-
rolling. That's all I can do. Oh, red team got it. Hat Kid is very agile for the verticals.
Well, yeah, because I have a double jump. I can, change direction in midair.
Oh yeah. Oh.
What?
Oh, red
Whoa.
team now. Okay.
I'm on blue now.
Oh, okay. I'm on
Strong,
red now.
dude.
Blue
Swap me up.
No!
Oh.
Get
Flag,
the bread!
Run, we got the flag.
So you might be on red, actually. Your name is red too.
for
What the
me
hell
Man.
just
too?
happened?
Yeah, I heard
Oh sure.
cat stuff.
I might have to get up and check that out. I'm worried.
Our cat getting in trouble.
You can catch the flag when our flag is still, when your flag's up. You know,
Yeah.
words. But
What?
flag return.
The little boy getting in trouble. Aha!
Run, Tweek, run!
Oh god!
Oh my god.
I made a bad jump! No! Go, Sonic! No!
Keep running, keep running, keep running!
This is so stupid. You're faster than me even with the flag.
I missed it. Oh, we got Sonic Runner!
I'm shooting fire!
I think that's actually making me run faster.
Oh my! Oh no! Watching a hat kid die is kind of disturbing. Hey, how's it going? Oh god! Ah! Ah!
The flag return, or did we miss it?
I
No,
don't
you've missed
know.
it because you killed
Oh,
me
they're
like
both killed
way
in
up
the
in
air.
the air.
We broke it, everybody. We did it.
Oh,
Oh, they
What
returned.
team color are
returned.
you supposed
Am I?
to be?
oh.
Was it anything crazy?
Get away from my flag area!
That was a load of shit.
What happened?
Who won? Oh, what was this one?
That's fair, yeah, if he's down here. Oh, that's fair, yeah. No, yeah, that's
Ow.
fair.
Ow!
You can hang down here with us until we're ready.
The bombs! Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
the
that's
bombs for some reason.
I can't return the flag because they have our flag. Hey, how's it going, blue flag carrier? I am red flag carrier.
My butt's burning.
Burn the booty.
Please don't burn the booty. Stop that bread! Not the bread. What's the other one? I got the names confused. Bart.
Go.
Oh, that's bread.
No, who has the red?
Oh.
No, who has the red flag? I've got your names.
Get in!
close to each
Yeah,
other.
get in!
Oh, the red flag's Tweek.
I got the red flag on the one. Yeah, I captured right before.
Gun.
I'm so sorry that I keep beating you up, but you keep being here.
Fair enough.
Shibata.
Oh, I couldn't make it. No! Oh, wait, did it not count?
I got it.
Oh my gosh, you
Nope.
got it just in time.
If both flags are out, you gotta get your flag back before you can score. Hell.
Wow, Sonic with the bomb is terrifying.
We killed each other?
Yeah, I'm still barely alive. I'm dead. What is a red flag over there?
So confusing. You're
Oh, you can capture it now. You can capture it now. Go. You can
No,
do it.
don't capture it. You can't capture it now. You
it.
can't capture it now.
No,
Don't
capture it.
capture it. Don't
Okay, sorry, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Did I?
Oh, also, I found out you can drop an item you don't want by hitting left bumper. If you want to get rid of it early.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Yeah. I just found that out during this match, actually. Oh, I can throw fire while I'm dead!
That's a lot of fire.
That's, that
Stop
should not be
flag
allowed.
carrier. Oh, heck.
Oops.
Get him!
Blood for the blood god! Skulls for the skull throne!
You didn't hurt yourself, did you?
Go grab the flag.
Flag's back! Wait, I'm carrying a flag! Cover me! Oh my god.
I think after this, we definitely have to try flood.
Oh yeah, the flood level.
Somebody get that flag carrier.
This is actually a hard match because it's all just a battlefield in the center.
Yeah, it's kind of chaotic, isn't it? Ow! Oh, my face!
Sonic with bombs is terrifying.
Oh, fire's everywhere, fire's everywhere.
I keep taking fall damage.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you can jump from the lower platforms, but the higher ones will.
Can we just turn off fall damage?
I don't know. I've never tried. I can see if there's a fall damage setting.
Oh my god.
Oh. Got the flag. I'm dead.
I just.
Oh my god, return the flag.
Well, so
Yay!
the same button that fires the bombs for me also does the spin dash, so I just start spin dashing while firing bombs.
Hi.
Okay. Let's try a different.
Flood?
Yeah.
Flood?
Yeah, let's try
That
this.
sounds
Flood.
good.
Whew. That was
I'm
insanity.
running at an angle. Mario, stop running. You're gonna tire yourself out.
Okay. Gloves are fine. Shoes are fine. Hair is fine. Skin. Green. Yeah. Okay. Overalls, I want to be blue. There we go. I'm back to Tweek. Okay. Posting game mode.
Waluigi?
Waluigi. Okay, so flood.
Terrible name.
He's Watworky.
Oh no! Please don't make Waluigi twerk.
Okay, so once you hop in, set your characters what you want to be. So it'll put us in random levels.
6 seconds.
Like some are custom levels, but some are like just random stages. Yeah, like Ball and Battlefield, and then you just have to climb to the top. without dying.
Alright!
Panic!
Oh, what are we doing?
Just have to
Get
get
to
as
the
high
top.
as you can. Yeah, before the water murders you.
Cannon's activated in this one?
No, I just
no.
checked.
I guess that's fair.
That was bad.
I mean, if you miss shot with the cannon, you're really like, doomed.
Why are there so many cannonballs? What the hell?
Back row advantage, go!
You son of a bitch!
Blink!
Oh, the water's coming, run!
I'll take the teleport.
Wow!
I'll take the easy route.
Lucy! Don't!
There's no teleport. It's a lie.
I
Escape
think
the
I made
flood.
it. I think I made it. Lucy, what are you doing? Are you... Do you want... Oh, okay, fine. He was
Oh,
crawling
by the
onto
way,
my
in this
lap.
game mode, if you fall in the water, your character straight up dies.
I escaped.
Like
Oh,
their
yeah.
dead body floats in the water all the way to the surface, all the way to the
It's
end.
like nature intended. Wait, what?
Yeah.
I forgot to tell you guys, I got a platform
Oh.
just
Oh,
like
no.
Lucy's got.
Oh, nice,
How's
you
the
got
water
one.
Tweek?
Yeah, I got Mitzi sitting up on it right now.
Does she like it? Oh, I guess
Yeah.
she's already on it.
Yeah, like as soon as I brought it in the house, she like hopped onto the bottom of it, started picking at the carpet.
Oh yeah, there's no collision in this game mode either, so we can't like accidentally murder each other. I don't think.
Accidentally, huh?
Accidentally on purpose. Oh wait, there is. Okay, we did just hit each other.
Oh god! No!
Oh,
Hey, GL Gamer, how's it going?
Hey, Tweek. Oh, drugs.
No! No!
sabotage!
You son of a biscuit! Oh, the water's rising. I'm not gonna make it. I am doomed. Waluigi is doomed.
Oh, bugger.
Fart monkey, no! Fart monkey, no! That's not a word.
Oh, how's it going? I think we're screwed. Hold me.
You're just trying to get as high as possible, right?
I'm not. Betrayal! Betrayal! Yay! Oh, we still gotta climb. Oh, we gotta climb this thing too.
Yeah, you gotta get all the way to the top. Oh, and there's an elevator too, so if you miss the elevator, you gotta wait.
Yay!
Damn it.
The water's coming.
How dare you? Why shove? Why shove?
Oh no! You can do it, I believe. Come on, Pac-Man. The water's coming.
Frickin' Waka.
Going
Bugger.
to spring? Oh, he's got a lot of energy. Oh, do you see dead Waluigi in the distance?
Well, like, I think that he was probably
There's
getting
dead
into things
Waluigi.
and he probably fell or something and spooked himself.
Oh, just dead Waluigi. It's so sad.
Don't get soggy, bread.
Oh,
Totally face down in the water.
Oh, wow, that is so cool. Yeah, it's just you just die in the water.
There's my body.
That goblin floating
That
there.
was so close.
It's so dark.
I died right at the beginning.
It does
And
happen.
I think
I
that's
almost
in the
died.
original game when you drown.
The poor legend.
You actually gasp for air when you're drowning in the game.
Yeah.
You die like that. It's kind of messed up.
Oh yeah, if no one beats the level, by the way, I think it makes everyone repeat it too. Oh,
Oh no.
no! Here we go.
Use the fire as a
Fire.
boost.
No!
How
The
dare you,
fire
guys?
made me run off the edge.
No!
Oh no! Okay, you made it.
Ah,
Okay.
fart! Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Wonderful.
Uh-oh. Come on, Pac-Man, don't let me down. All these years of playing video games have to pay off, right? Dead last, I can still do it. I can still make it. I got electrocuted, stupid ball of shocking lightning.
Ah,
I died.
me too.
Okay, I made it. Oh,
Nice.
oh jeez.
Oh no!
What happened there?
The crouch bump by accident.
Oh.
Oh no!
I quite literally.
This is one of the hardest levels, to be fair, for like
I'm
trying to
floating
platform.
I don't want to see my
Water.
floating dead body.
Just shows you survivors. Tweek and Ciabatta. Everyone else died. Jeez.
You got 16 points though because you're doing it much faster.
Hey, this water doesn't kill
Oh,
us.
okay.
Like I've survived every one, but my score is lower than so it's
I'm not
Oh,
good.
interesting.
yes, but you're fast.
Yeah,
Highest point. We gotta go in the mansion. Oh, you
yeah.
gotta
Oh,
make
we
that
gotta climb to the roof.
jump.
Oh no.
Oh gosh, this is not used to the wall jumps. I am so sorry. This is gonna be.
Oh boy. All right. Ah!
Oh. Whoops. Didn't mean to ground pound.
I don't even know where to.
You do the
Oh
cartwheel.
no! I don't know how to do that on this character. Oh no!
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Yeah,
tricky.
you can't. I don't know how to watch up
You
either.
know
This
what?
one.
Oh,
Bounce
wants it do
off my
a
head.
ground pound.
If you can bounce off my head, it might give you enough height. I'll let you guys do that. Oh crap, we're gonna.
Oh god, the water's here! The water's here!
Alright, wait.
Oh god.
So we just died
Just
really
a
quick.
room of dead bodies. It's gonna make us
Wow,
do that level.
we're-
Oh wait, no, Rye survived.
Nice.
Rye did it.
Oh my
Oh
god.
jeez.
So we don't have to
Was
do the
I the
level
only
again.
one that made it there?
You were the only
Yes.
one that made it.
Oh
I
my
was trying
god.
to help people and I ended up drowning. I feel like there's like a life lesson in there.
Oh, that was great.
Oh yeah, this one uses lava instead of water. Just a heads
So
up.
you can take the elevator or...
Fun!
Oh,
I'm almost dead already.
Yeah, you die faster if you hit the lava ahead of time.
yeah.
Oh,
Well, you can
oh, fuck! Oh,
get,
fuck!
health by, you know.
Points. And there's a heart
Points.
somewhere part way.
Oh god. Well,
You run faster, you run through that heart, the more health you get.
I fell.
yeah, I fell too.
There we go.
Out of the fire! Oh, fire! I'm the one to talk, aren't I?
Ah! But did I do it? Oh, I did it!
Yeah, yeah, you just have to climb to the top of the holes, so it's not
Yeah.
too bad. Wow,
Whatever
that
you did
lava's
is
right there.
You did like a flip in a different way.
That's a hard one too. Only Star
Oh,
Mystic.
man.
Wow. Some of these are real hard. I've only
None of
lived 2, maybe 3. Two.
Single player
Wow.
is not difficult, but multiplayer with a racing aspect is very tricky.
Yeah.
boy, I
Oh,
haven't been in here in
shifting
a while.
sand land.
I don't even
this
know where to
one.
go up in here.
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure we have to get over there, across the sand. Oh. I don't know if I'll make it in time before the...
Oh. Okay.
And then we gotta keep going up.
You can spam and jump when you're in the sand because the elevators will sink in.
Yeah.
Well, unless it's the murder sand that is coming.
Murder sand is different.
Oh, well, I'm
Murder
dead.
sand just kills.
Ah,
Yeah,
goodbye, cruel world!
I can't see them. Camera angle, please. Please, camera angle.
No, murder sand.
You guys got blocked by the swamp.
Swamp that.
Swamp.
Crap,
None.
swamps.
Survivors?
Nobody.
None. No one can make it. Not even you. Not even chat. None survive.
Right, you know.
Goblin Waluigi scared
Oh,
me.
damn.
Yeah, since no one got it, it's gonna make us do it again.
I'm gonna try to cut. Oh, watch this. Watch whirlpools. I'm gonna try to cut across the sand.
Can I do it? Oh my god, I
I
can!
just did. Yeah.
Might save a little time, but you gotta be careful where you jump.
I did cut
Ah,
a corner.
bitches!
Let me up. Let me
Oh,
up.
thanks,
Let me up.
Oh, come on. The Goombas knocked me down. Oh, and
You
I'm dead.
whore. Oh, I got knocked out.
I got
Rip.
electrocuted. We're all gonna die again.
Ah!
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh no!
Dragon, whomp 'em.
How do I do this?
I'm dead. I am so dead.
Only person
Can I
looks
go
like
up
might
in
get
this?
is Tweek so
Can I still
far.
have? I don't know.
You gotta save us, Tweek. You gotta save us all.
Make sure we don't have to come back here again.
Use those long Waluigi legs. Come on.
Oh god!
You can do it.
Come on.
You can do it.
Oh, there's more.
You can do it. Come on.
There's a lot, yeah.
Oh, well, I'm surprised she brought us ahead of you.
Oh, God.
Oh.
I made
Come on,
it.
get it. There you go.
Oh god, no!
No!
Oh, shit! No!
You overjumped.
Oh no!
Oh,
Such a
Chabana made it
bad.
though. You saved us. Oh,
Oh yay!
Scary sand. Oh my goodness, my eyes.
that
Yeah, no,
was a
that was-
nightmare. I can make the sand go faster.
That was wild.
No, please.
Faster?
It goes fast
Faster.
enough. It goes fast enough.
It's at 0.8 speed right now, and you can put it up to 3 times.
Oh!
Go, go, go.
Wow.
Wait, can we go up? No, we can't. Waterfall. This is in Minecraft.
This is a long mountain to
Yeah.
climb. Oh god! Oh, this is bad.
I just like
Don't
sabotaged
bully
everybody
me.
Well,
and then killed
Wow.
myself.
hey Mal, we're dead down here. We might as well accept our.
Is everyone dead?
No,
Me and
Come on.
Mel got shoved down the,
I'm going
the
to the
pit.
whole mountain.
It's
God.
okay.
So you have to climb that
I'm-
spinning log over there.
I'm spectating. Spectating.
I'm getting that everyone's dead. Ah!
I'm
Oh, it's
alive.
funny. It says I'm spectating Tweek even though it's clearly set. Oh,
Yeah.
You were doing good, and then you launched yourself.
Oh yeah, I forgot
Oh, wait,
part of
go
the
look.
map makes you go down again.
I wanna clip that.
Yeah, no, that was pretty funny. Just deflected right off the wall.
Hey, I made it.
Oh, something else that might help a lot of people, by the way.
eh?
You can toggle off Mario Cam and like make it so only free cam is on. And that makes the camera a little easier. It doesn't help with like underwater, but it helps with like the regular running. Or at least I liked it a little better with the regular running.
Oh no.
It tells me
oh,
I'm
no.
spectating Tweek, and I know I'm spectating Jabata.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, dead
Tweek.
Tweek.
Terrible.
Hey, gamer made it.
Yay, I did the thing.
But yeah, if you go into your options in camera, you can actually analog camera, you can turn it off, and then it's just pure free camera, which is a little easier. Like just your right stick controls the camera. Oh. Oh, okay.
Careful going the pipes. You go large and small. You can go on the pipes, actually. That's a good question. Okay, this water is temporarily safe. I gotta get out of it. Go swim faster, Pac-Man. Come on.
Ah,
Koopa shell. Give me that Koopa shell. Give me that Koopa shell.
I wasn't prepared. Back.
Shit, hold on.
If that Koopa respawns, grab a shell. You can actually surf on it and get a good speed advantage. And I just slid off the mountain and I'm dead. I'm drowned. Oh no.
It's okay, I died too.
Oh god. Oh god.
Oh, well, you think the water would hurt you the least? It must be poisoned or something.
Wait, who's all left?
Just
I'm
you,
dead.
I think.
I think it's just you. Don't let us down, Tweek.
I'm gonna let everyone down now that all the pressure's on me.
And no pressure.
Oh!
Did it!
Did it! Yay!
Oh,
I'm
Zaruk
fucking
Color,
dead.
welcome. Welcome to our chaotic Mario thingy. I don't really know what's going on, but welcome.
Everything's going on. Nothing's
Welcome.
going on.
Welcome. Enjoy Waluigi face.
Hi,
How are you doing?
Zaruk! Hello, everyone!
Hello. Oh, it's a me.
I'm not prepared.
I died instantly.
So we're playing very cursed Mario 64.
Yeah, it's very good.
Vertical, just keep running. It lets you go up straight up.
How do I go up?
You just keep running. You don't want to jump on them.
You just want to Skyrim it. Just
Yeah.
keep jumping. Just
Yeah,
I
keep
did it.
jumping, Just keep
Skyrim
jumping.
horse.
And
The single horse, it will guide you.
For once, the horse is
I
not
don't even
cursed.
remember which level
Oh,
this.
I'm dead.
Ah! Oh no!
Hey, how do I
So
make you
you're
fall down?
doomed. You're doomed. Okay. This part's gonna be hard because it goes like up and then back down into the water where Pac-Man is. So you gotta get through it easy or quick, not easy.
Well, I did.
And then you have to go on the slow-moving platform.
Oh no. Here it is.
By the way, your model kind of fell asleep.
Oh, that's because I'm asleep. No, I'm just kidding. No. Okay. So how are people doing on Flood? Is this?
I mean, it's fun.
it's a little insane.
Very morbid fun.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure if I'm blue because I'm blue or because I have a lot of water in me right now.
Am I close enough to the camera? Can anyone see up my nose?
Okay, so if you hold, I'm gonna show you. If you hold
no one
A,
made
you
it.
like keep bouncing.
I'm just
Oh god.
I died.
Oh goddamn! I just immediately died.
I mean, to be fair, this is a Bowser level again, I think.
it's me and Tweek so far. I can't see if there's anyone behind me yet.
Wait, if you just kept running, you would have went up it. You don't have to jump.
I was trying
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
if they have arrows, you don't have to jump. Yeah.
Just build it.
So stupid.
kind of a tutorial thing because there's also another one where you have to go up without arrows.
Ooh, good
That was
job.
some sneaky shit.
Oh god.
Crap!
Oh god.
And
Oh god.
go,
Thank
go,
you.
go.
Oh.
Come on.
I didn't realize we could hit it twice.
Yeah, me either.
Fuck it.
I don't know how you didn't get hit by that fire.
I did.
I'm gonna use it to my advantage. Oh, it actually slows you down.
Oh, the piranha
Did you die
killed me.
from fall damage?
No, there's a piranha there that spawns, and it killed
Oh
me.
man.
Okay, wish me luck, guys.
You can do it. I mean, this slow-moving platform is going to be the death of everybody, but I believe. It's too fast for the slow-moving platform.
Oh no!
What's that sound I made? Oh, God. Look at the yells I've been making. It's kind of disturbing to me.
But yeah, if you're doing the dive and you hold A, you just keep bouncing instead of just going right into a slide.
I'll catch up. Go, guys.
Okay, attempt again. Otherwise, I'll.
I'm gonna try to dash.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
Oh my god!
It really wants someone to beat this level.
Wrong way. I dashed the wrong way and I died. I didn't know if it was possible to cancel my dash.
I died.
kind of went off the water. All up to you, Tweek.
I don't wanna.
Up to you,
I'm right
Tweek.
behind you.
I don't wanna.
Up to you.
But yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I don't know
Go,
if
guys.
it's like the webcam or
I don't know
what,
how to do
but you
this
might want to
crazy way, so
recalibrate
I'm just
after.
gonna
Oh yeah, it's been a little wonky, right?
What?
I apologize. I don't know why it's been.
Can we watch another person? Besides
Oh my god.
Oh god,
guys are down there
that does
still.
so much damage.
Trying to rush this part is tricky because that slope.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, see?
How about you check things for a sec? 'Cause I don't know why that you're just not being tracked.
Yeah, come on. YouTube Studio. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, the camera's turned itself off again. It seems like after a while it turns itself off.
Yeah, that's something that shouldn't happen.
Yeah. Come on. Come on. There we go.
Fart!
No, stop bouncing.
Yeah,
God
like I
damn
was
it.
just noticing that your eye was shut the whole time, and I'm like, that's
Yeah, there we go.
something's
Oh
up there.
god.
Probably does not help actually being able to see when you jump.
Yeah. Oh god, the water's already here. I'm not gonna make it. The water's
jeez.
already here.
I'm
Yo's the
gone.
boss.
After this, do we want to return to Classic and just see if we can get to Bowser? Because we already beat
Oh,
second
yeah,
Bowser,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
we
we
were
should.
actually slaughtering that.
For once, we'll do the slaughtering instead of the game.
Oh come on! These stairs are taking too long. Oh god, go 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 go! Waluigi, you can do it. Oh god, fire. Okay, I can't wait for fire. It takes too long.
Can't wait here, you gotta jump there. Or that one's
This is the first time I haven't taken damage from that fire, so I was like hoping. Oh yeah, no, this isn't gonna work, is it? How close can I get using the platform before the water like actually reaches me?
I can't tell. Let me change. Oh, it's there already.
Yep. Wow. Yeah, there's no way. you gotta jump over that. That's the only way to do it. Okay.
Yeah, your eye is just closing a lot more for some reason.
Okay. We'll set it
got
back to
something
normal mode. Yeah. That was crazy.
One way to say it. Oh, I might want to delete that text.
Okay.
Gosh darn it.
It's probably just being wonky again. Because I had like having to reset the camera over and over. I've had to reset the camera like 3 times during the stream, so.
That's fair.
Wow. Okay, so we were at 38 stars.
I'm just walking. Taking my time.
Walking your way down, Cass. Walking fast. Head into the castle. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
And I'm singing.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-ba.
I'll be back in just like a minute. I'm really quickly getting some food.
Yeah, no, food for sure.
What is good?
I'm almost done. I'm just separating wings.
Oh, I forgot about this area.
I'll be back.
I went to Wet Dry World. I totally forgot about Wet Dry World.
Oh, the one. Yeah, the water changes levels. Yeah. Okay. I'll join you.
You want to be Wet Pac-Man?
I mean, I'm already blue.
Fair enough.
How to do this? what we're gonna go for first? What dry world? Shocking arrowless. Alright. I remember being confused when the first time I played this. Oh, right. Freaking.
Can I lower this? No. Oh, the secret blocks. I forgot about that. That seemed like cheat. Oh god, that platform spins so fast. I got yeeted off the spinning platform. But welcome if you're just joining us. Yeah, the Roombas. That's true. I like getting yeeted by the Roombas. They just want to be your friend.
Oh, I'm dizzy. I got a star.
Hey!
I'm not a complete failure! Yay! That's terrible. I'm sorry.
Ah!
Ow. I packed butt.
I don't know what other stars you can get in the first instance.
Chuck, you missed. Come on.
Okay, I assume that's the arrow platforms, unless that's the star you just did. What was those arrow platforms?
It was a question. If it was in a block, then I already got that star. Oh, I drowned trying to get to the water to heal. I shouldn't have dived in. And I crashed.
Oh, don't
Just
crash.
staring at my dead body in a
Oh,
water.
no.
Oh, I found another star.
Kinda
Oh, and I
sad.
crashed the game.
Oh, damn.
I mean, to be fair, we were doing a lot in that game before it crashed.
It's
Oh, the
true.
trooper.
All the water worlds and everything. I feel like that was a pretty good.
Ah.
That was a pretty good length of time before we destroyed that game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on. It's
That was
just.
good.
I'm just loading it one more time. There we go. Because I do think we can get to Final Bowser in like very little time with how fast we've been going. How much do we need for Final Bowser? Actually, I should go check.
Final Bowser.
I should go check what we need for Final Bowser.
Is that anything like the final countdown? We need at least 70
The
stars.
final bow out in the end. Okay, so we need quite a few more stars. But to be fair, we got like 39 in very little time. So
Yeah. Yeah, 70 stars is the minimum. 120 is the full amount.
whoa, that was terrifying. Waluigi started flying into the ceiling.
Get down from there. Where'd my browser go? What? I just closed. Oh, I just closed the Firefox. Great. By accident. I think I know what I'm doing. Ugh. What time is it actually? I should check.
It is
Damn.
10.
Yes, it is
Oh,
10
who
Eastern.
kicked? Okay, who kicked my butt?
Yes.
Oh, I can't even
I see.
change my character now. Okay.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Do I not have the mods on?
Payback,
I don't
Fair
know.
enough.
I'd say I should have the mods on, but
Ah, I could jump so high.
I don't know. It's just not allowing me.
is anyone else able to change the character?
I was Mario by the
Yeah,
Pac-Man.
I just switched to Hat Kid.
Oh, okay.
You forgot the slash.
Oh, and you're also doing Zeph instead of Beth.
No, it's just saying that I can't.
Oh,
I don't know.
Oh, actually, I think
Does
I
it
need to
say why?
yeah.
I couldn't turn into Hat Kid until I switched off of Waluigi.
Oh, that's
When I
true.
tried to turn on Hat Kid as Waluigi, it said it doesn't like this character.
Oh yeah, normally you have to be Mario to turn into another
I am
character.
Mario.
Oh, okay.
Oh. I was able to turn into Hat Kid as Toad.
I gotta be right back. I think I actually need to eat real quick.
Yeah, no, it's just saying
Try
telling me. that-
leaving and reconnecting, maybe.
Yeah,
So I can think.
I guess I'll do that.
I'm gonna set my Pac-Man in the corner and go get some food. I need to eat.
No, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. It is late.
I can't believe I made that. I should not have been allowed to do that. I've gotten 2 more stars in the Snowland.
Oh yeah, I don't know what changed. I just can't.
No, my hat!
Anymore.
No, my hat! I'm Waluigi without a hat!
Which is super weird.
Yeah, Veth the Dolphin is turned on. Too.
Yeah, I'm doing it right.
/VEPH, space on.
Yeah.
Huh. I guess I can see if I can turn into it.
Well, the other people said they could, so like I feel like I'm just getting something weird.
Yeah, I can turn it on too. Huh. Oh god, this world killed me.
I've returned with numbs.
I was trying the backward slide glitch, but I've never actually done it, so... I was like, I'll give it a shot, see if I can do it quickly on the stairs here, but I actually was not doing it.
Are we back to the regular game mode where we're just looking for stars?
Yeah. Oh, I immediately fell. Yeah, we're just trying to get stairs. Waluigi just floats away. Wait, is this the... No. I thought one of these boat pictures was actually
Yeah, I
thing.
don't know why I'm the only one that can't.
Can't what?
Maybe try turning
it
the mod
worked finally.
Oh, I was gonna
What
say
the
maybe
hell?
try turning the
Every
mod
my
on.
God,
time
this is broken.
it just didn't work every other time. I don't know how to explain it. It's weird. Yeah. I have no idea where I'm going.
Me either. We are just little guys.
That's fair. Well, we're just going to random levels right now. Like, I went up to the big tall mountain. There's a sleepy Pac-Man over here in the corner.
This apparently is missing a star.
Yeah.
There's a lot missing.
We can try to figure it out.
I have no faith in myself. Ah.
Sorry. Hey, you found an extra life.
Yeah, Waluigi surfing!
Blah 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 blah. I
All right.
fucking died.
Oh no, we crashed.
Don't do that.
Eee.
Uncrash.
I don't know how to uncrash.
That's fair. I wouldn't really know either, but
No.
undo. I'm just trying to scale the mountain at the moment. I'm gonna see how well I
Set
do.
died and then I crashed.
But yeah, I can come to Cool Mountain. I think I was over there just a little bit ago.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't know what other stars people have, so figuring out what's left is harder.
Oh god, no! No, the camera changed direction and I ran off the mountain! Ah! Okay.
This
That wasn't too
game
bad.
is bullying me.
The game does like to bully.
Whoa.
As was the retro console
man.
era.
Oh,
I am
good.
not
I'm glad that it didn't make me have to turn the vest back on.
finding
It's already
stuff
on.
in this.
Oh,
That's not
I see it.
happening.
Which level are you doing? Cool Mountain?
The snow one.
Oh,
There's
that one.
one
That one wants
star.
the penguin slide, doesn't it? That's a hard one.
Oh.
Here, come up this way. There was a level I was working on upstairs that didn't have like any stars done.
You can't hear me eating, can you?
Nope.
Oh, good. I was just like, oh no, what if I'm chewing so loud you hear everything?
Actually, your character's good in swimming worlds, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, so this one. Welcome to the wet, dry world, where you can set the water level.
Oh, immediately this bitch attacked me.
Yeah, it did attack me too. Someone's already in here, that's why it was animating.
What do we need?
To find stars.
I understand. Okay.
I think there's one at the bottom of the world and one at the top of the world, and like you can change water levels with little switches.
Well, I'll look down here then, because someone got one.
Here, I'll try and raise the water for everybody.
Jesus Christ, we swim fast.
Hello.
I think this raises the water here.
Woo!
Yep, I'm bringing the water up. There we go. That should
I feel
help.
like Sonic. I feel like the Sonic of the Sea.
Did that help anyone reach any?
I just got electrocuted.
Excellent.
My
I
question
don't
is,
know what
how
I'm
do you
looking
move that
for,
wood
so I'm
bit up
just
there
like-
for star?
Yeah, I thought it was gonna
Is
be
that-
like a weight thing, but I don't,
There's
I don't know
a
if it
button
is.
here. I just can't push it because the water's too high now.
Oh yeah, if we can get over that. Oh, I almost made it by swimming through the air.
Oh, I see the star. I see the star. I wish you could ping. It's right here in this
there is
cage.
one in there, but we haven't figured out how to do
yeah,
that
that's
one.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so can you jump and reach where Ciabatta just went over here?
Where?
There's a cage in the corner. I just jumped into it. Excellent. So apparently there's a star somewhere through this tunnel, I think.
Okay.
I'm just bad at swimming.
Secret tunnel.
Yeah. It's better than being Sonic, though.
There's a cage. Another cage.
Oh, great. Are we
Wait,
trapped?
can I get under?
Oh, you can get under. Okay.
Up we go.
He's being a wonk. Oh, are there like red coins down here? Okay. So remember, coins give you health
Found
back.
one. But there's also
Yeah.
air if you just go up.
Oh, okay.
Woo!
Oh, can we lower the water now that we're in here? I wonder if someone outside can find a lower button.
Yeah, I can do that. How low do you want it?
Good question.
Or there's a metal cap that'll let us
Here,
do the same
all the
thing.
low.
really.
I think that's as low as she goes.
Oh, okay. So it didn't make a difference
Low.
down here, fortunately.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I wanted to get thrown up in the air. You telling me that causes me damage?
No, I found the invisible cap that we need to hit while we have the metal cap, I think.
Use.
And then we had to take that invisible cap to the cage, I think, to get into the star.
Oh.
Come on, backwards jump again for me.
Okay, so I think we hit this. Okay. And then we quickly run there. Yeah, Ciabatta's already on it.
I didn't have time though.
Okay.
I had another switch that did something. I don't know what it did.
I'm almost to the invisible cap.
I did something. What? Who knows?
Oh, you can't hit it. Darn. Okay, so there has to be a way to lower the water down here. Oh, I see it. There is a switch to lower the water down here. Okay, I'm about to lower the water to new
Alright.
depths.
Okay.
Oh, we're almost at the 100 coin star.
I can't pound, so I can't attack down here.
Okay, the water's about to go to the lowest level. Okay. Oh, I stole your cap. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, okay, so there's 100
Yeah, we got
coin stars
star.
somewhere.
We got it.
Okay, I'm in the invisible cage. Now, how do I get up here? I think the water needs to be raised again for me to swim up to that star
Yeah.
in the cage. Is
I'm on
somebody-
top of the cage.
Oh wait, no, I can wait, can I not jump off the cage wall?
There's 6 red coins.
Oh.
There we go. That did it. Okay,
7 red coins.
I got the star in the cage.
Yay!
Oh, I missed the last red coin. Bugger. It's in that block up on that roof.
A block up on a roof.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh, I got a star, but it's not a star we need.
Oh, there's the red
Every
coin
star is a star we need.
That's true.
No, it's blue. It's no.
Oh, it's like
Oh.
that kind of star.
It's already been
Haha!
Wait,
grabbed.
what is? Oh,
I got all the 8 red coins all on my own. Even though I never saw a single one, and Javada got all of them. But you know what? Now how do we get out of here? I think we're supposed to probably
the
exit
pole on the
stage.
steeple will raise the water back up.
Oh, okay. I might exit the castle anyway though, because it's probably faster to
Yeah,
get
I'm gonna
back
do
to the
that.
level. Just from
I
how
take
deep we are.
that route.
We were
Nice.
deep.
But we never got that last star in here.
It might be a different version of the stage, but we'll check when we get back to the painting.
Okay, because it's in a cage.
Yeah,
I got
there's
on
one at
top of the
top.
cage.
We never figured that out.
Yeah, I was on top of the cage, but there's a wood
we've never
block
done.
completely
Oh,
blocking
we
it
didn't.
off.
No one did the shocking arrow lifts. So that yellow block by the arrow lifts, that's the thing we need to get.
Oh.
Sorry, what?
It's on like the left side from where you start. There's like a bunch of arrow platforms and a yellow block. That's what we need to get to.
Oh, yeah, I got to that when it was flooded, but
Hey, you want what? Do you want lap?
how do you...
Lap? There you go. I gave the cat some lap.
Well, that makes sense why you started leaning to the side so much.
Yeah, sorry. There was a cat, and he wanted to be on my lap. Actually, why am I still leaning to the side?
Yeah, I climbed up here, but
am I
like
still
once
leaning
you're up
aside?
here, there's nothing you can do.
Gosh darn it. The camera's just cutting out all the time now.
So I'm not
There's
sure what we do with
Still
it.
gotta be fiddling around, I guess, to get used to what's gonna work with it.
Maybe the camera overheats every so often or something. I don't know if that's a thing.
I don't
Can
know.
that
I don't
happen?
have overheating problems.
My camera's pretty... Like, I bought it a long time ago. I wonder if that would...
You might need to turn up your resolution on VTube Studio,
Oh, okay.
or if your camera supports a higher resolution. It really helps for keeping tracking and keeping your eyes open. I have
Oh,
that
but
problem.
like every so often when I go back to VTube Studio, the camera just isn't showing anything.
I also
Yeah,
told
it's
him that I
losing
think
tracking.
he should go
Oh,
to eye open and do the one eye and force it open more. Just put up the parameters and then you don't have to worry about it just because his eyes are closer. That's why he thinks that it's struggling.
Oh, there's a
I'm
red
gonna
bomb.
lower the water because I found an exclamation mark that hasn't been pushed.
Can we...
To push it.
Oh, I didn't make it. That's fair. There's also a bunch of secret
Didn't make it
blocks. There's a red bomb like at the top of the world, and I'm trying. There's a cannon that he opens, and I was wondering if there was a way to get to that.
Oh.
Oh, I got the
How do you...
shocky arrow one. So
Nice.
Is there an even lower water thing?
There might be. Oh wait,
like,
can we?
you have to push this
Oh,
box over
what's this?
to...
What did that box do? I just shoved a box into the wall.
Oh, there was a red coin behind that.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
Pretty sure I got it earlier.
Oh, maybe the lower water ones are the ones that are like in that cage, right? That's like.
Jeez, I don't know why my controller is
It's like
vibrating so much.
there's one of those yellow exclamation mark boxes over there.
Oh, I found
Get it
the
without lowering
lowest
the water
one.
even more. Oh, okay.
Here we go. There
Awesome.
you go.
Now I can push it.
Oh,
Hey.
I'm in the cage. I'm in the cage with the star. If we can raise the water again, I might be able to swim up. I wonder if that would.
Oh. Yeah.
All right.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, I think we have to find a way to raise the water again.
Yeah, I'll start.
Because I don't think we can all jump our way on up, unfortunate.
Well, yeah, that's probably what that. Maybe the platform is just meant to stop us from wall jumping.
Oh, hey, there's a star over here. Yoink.
You found another star?
Yeah, it was, I assume from, red coins or something?
Oh, that would make sense.
So it's just kind of out in the open here.
Okay, I'll hit the high one. I don't know if it's high enough, but
Oh, okay.
if I can make it. Waluigi's being a little flumpy. There we go. Another streamer
That's
I
what
know
you're using.
use a ring light for face and eye movements. I haven't needed it for most of the time, but I can turn on the ring.
I think you should have it on. I think you should use it.
The thing is, I don't see a hole on where we're going to squeeze up through, even if we get the water high enough.
Oh yeah, does it not have
Because
a?
my room is a lot
Yeah,
brighter
it's
than
just like
yours.
completely blocked by that wood.
Yeah, so that's like, oh, how did I get launched out? I was in there.
And there's not any boxes we can shove on it, is there? That could be something.
Ah,
Hold on, I can get back up there. Give me a second. Okay. I don't know if something different happens when it's fully raised or something, but I'm in the hole.
Yeah. Hello.
Oh, that's down.
You do?
I can push this block around. I don't know what this will do.
not really.
Otter Chan, you're going down.
There was a yellow exclamation mark block
You
there
on
that you
the
had
water
to
level?
use it to
Yeah.
get, but it has since been got.
Oh gosh. Oh. Well, I'm not sure actually how to get that one. We might be. Hold on. I'm gonna do another exit to castle now that we got more. Now that we got more stars, and see if it's got a new thing.
Hey, you were on his lap. What are you doing?
He hopped down. He decided he was tired of my lap. Tired of lap.
To be fair,
the
he's probably being a
express
little
elevator,
bratty
hurry
because
up.
he's late.
Oh, it looks like there's new stuff in this version.
My Tweek.
Hello.
Ugh.
Yeah, so if you leave the stage and go back in, it looks like there's a new version for it.
Of course.
Now, wood still looks like it's blocking, but there is now an exclamation point next on that bit of wood next to it.
Yeah. And there's also like another area with exclamation mark blocks up there. Yeah, what's that exclamation mark?
Lucy.
Maybe the cannon? I wonder if that would do something.
Ah, shit.
I was kind of hoping that hopping on this, I was kind of hoping that hitting this thing would,
Would have got us in there.
yeah.
And it still
Isn't
looks...
there a cannon level? There is.
Oh,
I mean,
what the?
Oh,
I brought part of it down.
oh,
Oh my god! Hell yeah!
that's a
Hold on.
thing.
Oh, it's going back up. I'll stand on it though, so it goes back down again. Oh, we gotta break that block, so you gotta lower the water all the way.
I'll lower the water. Do you want to stand there?
Yeah, I'll wait on.
Who's the dolphin flying around down there?
Me.
It should be right at the bottom of the elevator, the thing to lower.
I was trying to see if I could
Oh,
break
that
it.
one works, dude. Or does it?
How do I...
Maybe it needs to be lower. No? Oh, no,
Nope,
you got
I got it.
Okay, perfect.
Alright, I'm ready for that water to raise.
Will this go low enough? Do you need the water? There you go. Hop on.
Jump on that, Mel.
I'm gonna try.
Oh, it went back up. That's fine. It'll come back down. This is such a weird... This is not how I expected to get the star.
Oh.
And down it comes.
Ah, I'm gonna try it.
And up it goes.
Good.
So if...
Hey,
wow.
wow.
Wow, that was violent.
That was rude.
My star.
Aw,
And now you're
I
trapped in
wanted
the cage.
star.
'Cause I'm not
I've been
gonna-
working so hard for it to
Star
burn.
obtained.
Aw. Excellent.
Sorry, gamer.
Okay, now time for New World, because that
guess.
world was awful.
Yeah.
Big Small? I don't know where you guys went while I was AFK.
Actually, I don't think we did much.
Hey,
big small, have we?
Wilson, how are you? What's your?
Actually, yeah. Split up.
You should try your ring light.
You go small, I'll go big. We'll see if we're
I
the
can
same
try
place.
it. It just... It's weird that it doesn't show anything. Like, zero confidence, camera not even on.
I don't think it will, but see a minute here, I guess, because I think it's like 2 different worlds technically.
I would expect that's the case.
Let me try setting it to, like, tracking 5 instead of NVIDIA. Maybe that's doing something. Dun, 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 dun.
We're gonna a little piranha plant.
No! Too fast.
Okay. Well, it's something. Let's see if that lasts longer than the NVIDIA one.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna
There's
climb
a
the
lot
mountain.
of things you gotta mess around with because a lot of it doesn't seem
What
to
the-
make sense.
What the heck? Why does it say scale the mountain? I already did the scale the mountain. Okay, going back up. Maybe I did it while we were doing hide and seek or something.
Say. Oh, you're in a different world. Never mind.
Yeah, I got it.
You went to a different world.
Oh,
Ta-da.
Yeah, your eyes just keep shutting.
oh, I fell to my death there with the red coin.
Oh.
Oh, hello.
You fell at the same
We must have
time I
both
did,
died,
apparently.
yeah. Way to take this multiplayer. It is multiplayer. Oh, you got a star. Blast the lonely
Yeah.
mushroom. Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's great.
I like dove out to that mushroom way out there.
Alright, I opened a cannon somewhere in the level.
Are we gonna try the red coins? I'll
Felt.
I mean, your eye is certainly reacting better
I just
now,
found 4
so
of
you
them
did
already.
something. I don't know.
I got knocked
No, I
out.
haven't done anything since I set it off NVIDIA.
Maybe I don't know. I keep thinking of things, then I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a reason for any of it at this point. Oh, the rest of the red coins are in this weird maze thing, I think.
Weird maze thing.
Yeah, just a little bit up ahead. There's like a wall climbing maze.
Oh.
There's also supposed to be support for a V-Bridger to help tracking too. But I
Yeah,
haven't
you
figured
can
that out
always
yet.
try that. I know it should be compatible with the way that she made it.
Oh god. Okay, I got the last red coin.
It is the problem we've been seeing is everything he's been experiencing I have not dealt with.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, the V-Bridger situation specifically with the NVIDIA broadcast tracking is supposed to give you tracking similar to an iPhone
Oh, okay. I mean,
in
I can.
combination with each other, but
Fish gonna
it-
eat, fish gonna
I couldn't
eat,
get it
fish gonna
working
eat.
yet.
I mean, I could always use my VTube Studio on my iPhone instead of.
Switch around them. Just see what works
Yeah.
better for you.
I mean, from what I've heard, iPhone tracking is just blatantly superior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can do that, I would just recommend maybe using that.
Oh, farts!
So I got the red coin star.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Oh my god.
We got 50, so
I'm
now we
just-
can go through the other door.
Oh, true.
Oh, sweet. So we can get to the TikTok clock and those ones now. What is it again? If is it if both hands are touching that time is slowed, or is it?
Maybe it's like at certain times.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's like on the hour or when both hands are touching. It's one of
Opening the door. Actually, that might affect the way we all play it too.
Oh, man.
I just made it. Oh god.
Oh, I just got a star from Toad.
Excellent, excellent.
Some of them give you a star.
Yeah.
I also got
I
a star.
think it
from
is
Toad.
an hour. Okay, so yeah, if it's an hour, okay. So if it's on the big hands at the top, basically, of the clock, you get easy. Or not easy, you get a frozen clock, so all the platforming isn't moving platform, which is very nice.
Technically is easy.
Yeah. Very nice. I mean, so far it hasn't stopped. The NVIDIA one was where it kept stopping, so maybe broadcast is just having issues.
Oops.
Okay. Okay, so I want to hop in the clock when the hand's at the top.
Which I managed.
That almost managed. Go team.
Wait, you want to hop in when?
Like right when it hands at the top, so then it freezes the clock, yeah. Because for some reason their clocks don't work when it's on the hour. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
You
but-
can have
And they gotta take a break every hour on the hour.
Tweek!
Oh, on my screen I didn't even come into contact with you. How do I...
Weird, but now it's doing the thing where your mouth is staying too open, so you need to find a balance.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't messed with any mouth stuff since... Oh, I died from fall damage.
Oh,
I see one down here in the wall.
my game might have just crashed.
No!
Well, I have flutter feet. I could probably flutter to that one star on the wall.
Yay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, no, I made it.
Oh god, no!
It immediately dies again.
Immediately! I jumped and hit the ceiling and then died. Waluigi has a very tall frame, apparently.
Oh, I died.
Oh no,
Whoa.
Well,
I didn't know you
anyone
could go
near the
between the
cart?
conveyor belt and the floor.
I didn't die, I just
Can
fell.
you pop my bubble?
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Oh god! Woo! Woo, 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 woo. Okay, so we got that star.
On the way to the top. Okay.
Okay, so I got this star. We're already at 56. Oh, whoa, I almost jumped to my death. Are there any
Try
more
not to do
stars
that.
at the top? Oh, there is a higher.
No!
Yeah, way up there.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of fading. I might need to opt out.
Yeah, that's fair.
Don't,
It is
don't
getting-
die,
it
Tweek.
is- getting
I've
late.
been still dealing with a headache off and on.
Oh, oh, hello. Oh,
Take care, so
Thank you.
feel better. Oh, I'm falling to my death.
oh god, I didn't grab it.
Okay, I'll continue to watch.
Sounds good. Thank you for monitoring. Spend some time with Lucy.
Yeah,
This is
CRT,
being
we
a
were
little
being
weird.
monitored.
Don't make any sudden movements.
Yeah.
Toadball's got Lucy movement.
Wait, where do I go from here?
That's what I was wondering.
Or are we not supposed to be able to get higher than here at the moment? Oh, maybe the flipper is supposed to take us up.
I mean, we need movement. Not frozen, right?
Oh, almost. Wow, okay.
I'm trying to look at it.
Oh, okay. No, it doesn't toss you high enough. It might be another version again, though, for all we know. Oh.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah,
there's
this
a
clock
hole in
goes
here,
way
this
higher.
page.
Like I feel like this here that I'm standing on might move in another in the moving version.
Oh, yeah, that probably goes up. They might be, like, stopping you from doing
Now,
it
if
here.
only my bubble version would let me grab the star.
I'm gonna commit honorable Sudoku.
Careful,
I
I
gotta-
have to level. So there's only so many of you there to pop bubbles.
Well, I had no lives left, so I'm like, I'm just gonna drop and get 5 lives.
Fair. I had like 1 left. I want to try the rainbow
Ooh,
ride.
Rainbow ride. Whoa.
Wish me luck.
Good luck. Don't get rode by rainbows.
That was verb. By
Rainbow
noun.
It's also a race.
Don't get verbed by
God, the
now.
carpet disappears if you stay off of it too long.
Wait, one side's Rainbow Road. What's the other side?
Rainbow dead end. Why did I jump off at that point? I was close to the platform. Oh gosh.
I think. Oh, was it the hat thing? I think it's the hat thing. Or like another hat. Red coin. Game mode.
I was, no, I was just trying to go for a platform from the rug, and I misjudged how far it was because perspective.
Fair enough. Normally you need the clock running
Oh
to
my
get it, but I'm
gosh.
feeling with
Oh,
all these
that's-
mods, yeah, that's fair. I didn't do like anything in the big small land, so I'm gonna check that out again.
Did we get all the tall mountain stuff?
No, we got a decent number of it though.
Check out and see what I can do from there.
Chill with the bully. Oh, I can do this one. You just have to beat up the ice bully, right?
Yeah.
I swam into him and he instantly died. Wow. I feel like that was a little cheating.
Waluigi cheats. I mean, he is Waluigi.
Yeah, that's right. Well, technically,
Waluigi,
everybody
number one.
cheater.
Waluigi is just a little guy who wants to play tennis.
Everybody cheater.
He
but
never
me.
asked to be here.
That's it, right? Everybody cheater but me.
I'm a Wario. I'm gonna cheat.
Did I ever tell you my family motto growing up, Tweek?
Uh-oh. No, I don't think yeah.
You ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Ah.
Is that how you won the cookie contest? You made all the other cookies look ugly?
No, that was just knowing your opponent.
You put illicit substances in your cookies.
I mean,
Sauce?
one of the cookies. Well, I was the judge and one of the contestants. So I mean, that's how I
Oh.
cheated there.
Yeah, I see.
One of the contestants got disqualified because he wrapped Christmas lights around his cookies that
Oh.
were in the floor.
Oh.
Making them inedible.
Yes. So I was like, you can't eat those cookies. He's like, but it's decoration. I'll be like, they were in the floor. Oh, health and safety.
Yeah. Yay, the cannon on the far side of the map's open. What are we supposed to use that for? On Tall map.
With a certain mushroom star on it.
Oh, we might have that one already, actually.
The monkey. Somebody's lost their hat to a monkey. It's a grayish hat.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Ah, okay.
Oh, I didn't lose it to him. I gave it to him.
Oh, what?
I picked him up, and it said that he was mine now, and or something, and now he's got my hat.
That's
Okay.
actually a question.
Am I being
What-
tricked right now?
What do you mean?
I'm trying to go up this hallway, but it doesn't seem like I'm going up any further.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's the big staircase.
So you can't get up that hallway until you have enough stars. Otherwise, it
Yeah,
just
it's
makes you run
magic-
forever.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
magically enchanted so you get 70 stars.
I see.
Yeah, that's
Isn't
the
there
final
a
boss.
cheat
so-
to make you go up it sooner?
I mean,
There
technically there is. I haven't figured out how to.
It's
nail it.
extremely tricky. It's like a weird type of back kick jump constantly.
Oh.
very fast, and I've
Yeah.
never tried it.
Yeah, I watched videos of speedrunners doing it, but I don't think I could ever do it myself.
I would rather not break controllers trying.
Oh, with that kind of attitude.
Yeah, no, I think.
Come on, monkey.
What star am I going for? Mystery of the Monkey Cave.
I don't know what this cannon's for, but I'm going for it.
There is a mushroom
might-
somewhere. That's right.
Oh, it is the mushroom in the distance.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
You might be a little late about the cage one.
Yeah.
Did we get it?
Because
I see
I
it.
just got it.
Alright, got it?
Yep.
Awesome.
Excellent. That's the monkey cage. What else do we need on this level? I don't remember too much about this stage.
Oh, bugger.
Oh, they give me my hat
Oh.
back. That is interesting.
I found a star.
Ooh, rainbow ride.
There's a. Oh, did everyone leave the level?
Oh.
No. There's a star
Huh?
near the top of the mountain. If someone. wants
Oh,
to-
in the waterfall.
yeah, in the water.
Dang. I backed out to go for the next one.
I'm still on the level, so I'm gonna. Oh, cannonballs.
Oh, you're at the cannonball section? Okay. There's a lot of
Yep.
cannonballs. Holy cow.
There is.
They are just dumping them.
I think
Oh,
more than
yeah,
the
those
actual
are.
I'm here to help. Even though I
Those are
started with like
pain.
no
Forget that.
health because of the cannonballs. Whew.
Made it.
Okay, we did it.
So I can see that coin back for health. I'm gonna grab it.
Man, that
There's
monkey
also
is
a 1-up.
mad.
Going ape.
It's going ape monk. Okay,
I see
so
it. I can just. Oh, I fell down the waterfall. Great.
yeah, we got it. We're at
Nice.
60. I don't know if there's any more in here because we already got the 8 red coins star.
61.
61, nice, nice, nice. Wait, did we miss any like Bomb on Battlefield or Womp? Because those should be easy.
I guess I can't be off of this carpet thing for too long or else it goes back.
Yeah,
Probably.
it starts fading and it disappears. Oh, I just double fall.
Oh,
It's like I couldn't stop
wait,
bouncing off
isn't
the
that just the one where it's on the island? No?
No, it's in the air.
Oh, okay.
You have to shoot yourself out of the cannon on the island. Well, that's the easiest way to it. I can't fly, so...
I got that star you were talking about in the waterfall.
Oh, I gotta talk to these guys, I think. Yeah! Thank you.
I just never thought about this. Could it be
I
two carpets
don't
at
actually
once?
know where the... I'm looking for the star in the sky. I don't quite see
It's
it.
through those right there, through those rank coins.
Oh, do I have to go through all of them in one shot? Probably.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, I'm
okay,
in a
so it
bubble.
just appeared. I didn't see where it appeared. Oh, it appeared way at the bottom.
There you are.
Oh, I died. No.
You can come touch me. I'm in the level with you. I'm
Huh? Oh, hey.
currently having a problem.
Uh-oh.
I'm over the mountain right now. If you want to look up in the air over there, like where you fought
Oh, what the heck? How did you...
I'm stuck in the air.
What in
There
the
we go.
heck? That's amazing. Hold on. Oh,
It
God.
might
think
not
I
be
have
how they
different-
wanted you to do it, but I got it.
I think I have different physics when I shoot out of a cannon.
Yeah, that's a little strange.
God.
Okay, I'll go get this. I'll go get this star, and then we can get out of here.
I hit the wall
Do
and
you know how to
it,
do the reverse cartwheel thing?
It's a little hard, but I can do it.
Yeah, pretty much like reverse in direction and hit and jump. It helps you get the higher spots.
Yay,
to,
we got it.
Cling to.
I think that's the last
Oh,
star in here, right?
we don't have the 100 coin star.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, I did that. I slipped.
I got one of the blue coins for you.
Thank you. Come back down.
If anybody wants to help us get 100 coins and bomb Battlefield.
Whoa!
I was trying to bomb. I was trying to bomb, not you. Oh gosh, I feel bad now.
Thanks.
Can you blow back up here?
Grabbing every little coin.
I'm like, look. Are you the only one on this map?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Yeah. There. Get out of here, you. There's a heart here. I want to get some health. Nuts. Huh. That's just too high to jump. Maybe if I wall jump off the side, then. Hang on a minute.
Come on, coins. Come on, coins. No! Aw, that coin got away from me. Oh yeah, the bombs turn into coins.
I didn't see it. Oh, there's a red coin over here.
The explosions can make you money.
Yay! Explosive money.
Ah, there it is. Got back up, so I can go back on these platforms.
Yeah, I want to work on these red coins in this little weird maze thing.
Let's see, there's a red carpet, a flying carpet over that way.
Oh, there's more coins on the island of the sky, so I can go back up there too.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not a good idea for me to shoot myself out of the cannon.
For some reason, the game does not like that. We're close. 75.
Ah, shit.
Do any of the trees have coins in them? I can't remember if that's a thing.
Sometimes, but they're hidden and not. I really just don't know.
Got a star. I'll see where it is.
I think if you
Here, you want me to
ground
see where it
pound
landed?
all these logs.
It landed back where that blue one is.
Can you get over here and I can pop your bubble?
I'm coming.
There. Go ahead and get the star. I'll take care of this jerk.
88. Okay. Getting there.
Woo!
63. One number away from the Nintendo version.
Man, I am not the best at flying. Oh god. Woo! My cap just ran out and I landed on the island with the next cap. How convenient.
Unfortunately, I'm too good at flying and I don't come down. So.
6 coins. I think I can get 670 out of here.
Sorry, that.
2 more. Woo! I'm going for 2 more. Got him.
Do you want to go here or do you want me to?
Oh, it spawned in the sky. That's
Get a
unfortunate.
little hectic. I don't remember how this goes exactly. I just know it's crazy.
I'll start seeing if I can go towards the other side.
Alright.
Okay. Just gotta hit that star.
Actually, ooh.
Actually, no, if you can get enough coins in this level, you can
Oh,
also get
come
enough star for 100.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, I can grab those coins while I'm there.
Okay, I'm gonna grab another wing cap just to make sure I got lots of time.
I want to stand level in case something goes terribly wrong.
Yeah, we got it. I landed inside chain jump. This seems dangerous. Yep, ow. Okay, we got it. All the stars conquered.
Nintendo 64.
Oh.
Let's see, Womp Fortress.
Oh, fart! I fell. I fell far.
While Luigi is choking,
Ow.
save him. Shoot into the wild blue. Oh, isn't that the one where you just shoot the wall?
I really fell. Crap. I misjudged that.
I think it's another flying cap one. Isn't
No! We both fell. I'm sorry.
Oh, maybe it's
Well,
something
that's
flying.
fine. We got stars out of it at least.
Yeah, we got at least 1 star.
it? Looks like we need
Thanks.
100 coins here too, though.
Or at least one. Fair enough.
At least this level's not too big, so. I do love that you fly forever.
Oh, another star we missed. We're told.
Oh god, I almost died from breaking that wall. That's crazy.
Actually, I need to check that toad next to the well in the basement. He gives a star, I believe. If nobody's gotten that, we get another star for free.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait,
Okay,
toad.
35. Back in the cannon to shoot the other wall. I don't know if this is a star we're going for, but I don't think anyone's done it yet, so.
Oh, bugger.
Oh, I wasn't high enough. Okay.
I fell and crashed.
Oh. Well, at least I'm still in the level, and there's still 45 coins, so we're good.
Progress.
Yay! The star on the wall's there. Except I have a sliver of health. Because apparently shooting the wall that is part of the objective just destroys your health.
Oh, goddamn it.
This is not hacked yet. What have you done to me, game?
Oh.
Wait, did we get to Bunny the second time in the basement? No, we
No.
didn't. I
I don't
think we did.
think so.
Sorry, I wasn't.
Oh.
I hadn't.
I forgot
I
about
wasn't
the
moving
owl.
yet.
That's okay.
What character is this called?
Veth?
Hang on, Bunny. It's back here. You got a star, and I want it.
Oh, cool. The owl takes you to the top of the tower.
Is it slash Beth on? Is that how you get the hack hit again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
There you go. I had to turn
What,
off.
Hat Kid or Beth?
I wanted Hat Kid, but for some reason I logged in as Veth.
Oh, weird.
So I had to turn off Veth.
Yeah. You can overlap them, but it like messes up the controls. Weird.
You're a monkey.
You can-
Oh, I should probably go
What
grab
the
that
heck?
star.
No.
What in the world am I hearing?
Oh, hello.
What are you hearing, actually?
It sounds like a monkey.
Is that squeak?
Yeah, there's
Squeak?
monkeys.
Oh no, that's at that level. Yeah, just monkeys.
Ooh, it smells good.
66, we're
The
almost
monkey
there.
smells good?
No, some food that I've been making.
Oh, 2 more coins.
Get back here, you stinking rabbit. Like Elmer Fudd.
Oh, I
Okay,
found the cannon.
a little higher. There's a star there, but
How did I miss that? Come on, man.
I'm trying to go for that one that's like under the platform, so it's a little.
Good
Little
flavor.
tricky.
Probably just needs salt and pepper,
I know it's pattern now.
but
Nope.
that's good base.
Higher. Okay. Oh man, that does so much
That'd
damage.
make a good potato soup.
Another star, probably.
Oh, did you get the 100
Oh, I
coin?
burned my tongue a little.
Yeah.
Nice.
68 stars. Caught the bunny the second time.
Star.
I wish I knew how to long jump, but I suck.
Okay.
So you know the button that makes you crouch down?
Nice.
Yes.
Okay, so you go up full tilt speed
Oh, 70.
Unnice.
while still holding forward. Hold down the crouch
Oh!
button. and
It's
then
ready,
jump.
everybody. It's
It
time.
worked.
You got it?
Yeah, I did it! Oh no!
Huzzah!
And then I died.
Yeah, you
Everybody,
gotta be careful with those things because they can like get you into both good spots and danger.
everybody, it's time to go fight Final Bowser.
Ooh.
We hit 70
Yeah, we
stars.
got 70.
stars. Yeah.
Hold on, I just spawned at the front of the castle. I'm coming. I'm coming.
That's fair.
I'm on
I
my way
want.
as well.
We should do this all together.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
final boss for
cool.
sure.
The final countdown.
Where are we going?
So all the way up. So every time you can
Okay.
go upstairs, keep going upstairs.
That classic combination of Goblin, Waluigi, and Hat Kid.
Yeah.
Hey, and some dragon dolphin things.
thing. And a very blue Pac-Man for some reason. Normally a ghost. This is a weird group. This is a strange party.
Hey, look how
Wait for
short
me,
this
guys.
staircase is. It would be crazy if someone thought it was longer for some reason.
So, do we go through the hole or through the painting?
Through
Wait.
the hole.
Hey.
Yeah, we're still
Almost
missing.
there.
Oh, there's Ra. Does it
Okay.
just bounce off the walls each time?
Yep.
Oh, it does.
Almost
Okay.
there. Almost there. I want to do something funny, actually. Hang on, guys.
Take your time. I am nibbling on chicken wings while I wait. Ah!
Let's do this. Leroy!
Oh.
I don't know why
Jenkins!
sometimes it like
I'm kidding.
doesn't
Oh.
bounce.
Oh, Tweek went in.
There you go. I'm just waiting at the start of the level. Hey, everybody.
That dash. Oh, hello.
Oh,
this seems
it's
familiar.
literally the level we were doing for the.
Yeah, but now it's no flooding.
Yeah, no flooding. We can actually.
And bubbles.
Yeah, and bubbles.
Take our time for a second.
I'm trying to get that
Well,
red
if
point.
one person makes
no.
a top 2, we can use bubbles to get everyone else up there too.
Got it. Oh, I died.
No.
I got the red
I got
coin.
Hey, are
That's an important bit.
teamwork. Heck. I just saved you. Get over here.
What are you doing, Tweek?
After you.
Oh god.
Oh my
Fall,
god.
please.
Ooh, oh,
You're doing
Okay.
great.
you want to
Got
pop?
this. I got this.
Hey. How's it going, everybody?
Hey, everybody.
I knocked. Oh, that's fire.
Delight.
I need I'm
No!
0. Oh, heck.
Oh,
Oh,
I went to-
that looks like it hurt.
Oh.
I was just trying to grab the red coin.
Who's nearest to me that I can... Oh, there's a red coin over here. Yeah, I see it. You might want to pop me first. Never mind. Okay, we both need to
Wait,
be popped.
what? Oh, I didn't know you were waiting for me.
It's nearby that I can... I saw a
Excellent.
bomb fall to its death. Poor thing. Feel bad for it.
Tweek, are you ahead of... No, there you are.
So, interesting fact.
You're doing great.
You can press the buttons as a bubble.
Tweek.
Oh god.
Stop. Tweek, stop.
Sorry, there's bombs after me. There you go. Oh, now there's fire after me.
Wait, get back here. Pop us. Pop us.
Do you want to get popped over here?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm popped. If you wanna touch me.
there we go.
I was okay with staying in a
We has
bubble.
popped everyone
I'm just
over here.
following you.
Yeah.
Anyone else need pop? Or are we good?
Oh my god.
Oh, that was... Hello. That almost went south for Waluigi.
Waluigi
Man,
comes out.
how would we have beaten the flood version of this, honestly?
It would have been nightmarish.
You would have had to
Be
slow it
careful.
down quite a
That's
bit.
the boss, yeah.
I'm waiting
Okay.
for everyone to get here.
Yeah. Oh, gee.
Oh,
Whoa!
Gamer, what the hell just happened there?
Stupid wind!
I think the wind and your
Wow.
rolling.
It killed me, straight out killed me.
Oh, you were just dead.
It didn't
Okay.
even let me ball. I was like, screw that, you made a big mistake. Oh, I'm dead.
Where is, Oh, you're down there.
Wait, are Pac-Man
He's still
allowed
moving.
to close?
Yeah, he's still
I'm
coming.
coming.
I'm coming back. That was painful.
I'm just gonna crawl around this pipe. Like a weirdo.
More than anything, my pride as a retro gamer was hurt.
It's some sort of weird
Wait, what?
ritual.
Oh. Okay.
That's somewhat akin to we're rich. 'cause
Oh
we
wait,
crawl.
did you die? Damn, so neither of them had bubbles left.
It killed me. It didn't give me the
No,
bubble.
I got
at all.
bubble.
Oh, you got bubbled
I'm
out.
coming. I'm coming.
Whoa, did you see that? I crawled on
Make 'em
the...
away, up, down.
Whoa. There's certain areas where you actually go on the side of the pipe. That's weird. I don't know if that's supposed to happen.
Oh yeah, yeah, it definitely did happen.
Oh hey, there's a red coin down here.
Hat kid with
Actually, it's,
poison.
the last red coin is like right here, I think.
Wait, where is it?
Just under just under the thing.
Oh, okay.
I shortcutted. Yep, there it is. Where'd that star show up?
Probably at the top, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
nailed it. Okay. We just need our pack bro, and then we can beat the heck out of Bow Wow.
Bow
Making
wow.
my way there.
Little Bow Wow. Bow Wow.
Isn't that just Junior?
Wait, will I just do that pose forever?
Oh yeah,
if
that
I
would be
don't?
Junior. Oh god. Oh, can't interact with them. Okay.
I didn't finish the menu prompt, so I'm just like there.
You're just stuck forever.
It's an eternal showdown with Bowser.
Can't tell you how tempting it is to push him out.
Please don't.
Yeah, it's very tempting.
Well, then I'm going to be doing Bowser all by myself. You guys have to wait.
No, that's not the way I was gonna push you.
Oh. That's not nice. I only have
I
2.
hear explosions down there. Does that mean GL
Yeah,
Gamer's here?
Yeah, I just ran past the bomb and it died. I think what it deserved. It knows what it did.
It was good. Man, that caffeine chocolate worked very well, but at the same time, it wasn't enough for this goblin.
How much caffeine was in it?
100 milligrams for the bar.
Yeah, that's like twice as much as I have in a day.
Lumen, where'd you go? Are you
That's a
committing war
tenth of what I
crimes?
have in a cup of coffee.
No, you're not. You're just walking. But you could be trying to commit war crimes.
I do
Well,
like,
that's the only way you
I
can
do
walk
like war
out.
crimes. What's committing war crimes?
I am not
My
down
cat.
this time.
But I
Jill
think
Gamer's
he's not
here.
going to because he's not by the spot where he usually commits war crimes. He's too far away from it.
Everyone in.
I'm in a cutscene. There we go.
Yeah, I can't attack him in.
Okay. Bowser's
Battle
here.
begins.
Everyone in the pipe.
He doesn't know how to focus.
Oh, we gotta go in the pipe? Okay.
Oh,
I made it.
whoa.
Careful, fire
What
everywhere.
happened there?
I don't
Yoink.
know.
Oh, excellent.
How'd you do that?
Got his tail.
Punch his tail to grab it.
Oh god,
Oh,
I greatly
wait.
mistimed that.
Get ready to get out of the way. Watch shockwaves.
well, you were pretty
Jump over
close to that
shockwaves.
bomb, though. Oh, yeah.
That was
That
always
was not even the one I was aiming at, though.
that was always the hard part of this for me was the getting them on the bombs.
Oh, I got crushed by Bowser.
I got it.
Oh no. Come on. Controller Chan, please.
Let my aim be true. Not true. Not true.
Rip.
You're gonna bring down a piece of the island. And he's gonna shockwave.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could toss him back and forth like a ragdoll.
Oh, I need more spin. That's all right.
Not enough room.
I had good accuracy, but not enough spin.
Oh, that was a bad dodge.
Uh-oh.
Got him.
Nice.
Don't you bottom. Spin!
Spin.
Spin!
You
Somebody
can
got
do
hit
it.
Spin to win.
We got ya.
Spin to win.
Will he throw true?
Probably not. I don't even. Wait, what button do I hit?
Same.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
Oh!
oh, come on.
Oh.
Hold on. Let's just fix
Nice.
this. There we go. Excellent.
He gave you that one.
Yeah, we'll count that as Chibata's hit because I just basically pushed him.
Well, the thing is, that's not the one I was aiming for. So
Oh.
Got
Don't
it.
say that. You're supposed to be like, just as planned.
I was like, is it this button?
Oh.
There it goes.
Here he comes. Get ready.
I got crushed by Bowser. I wish that were me. Whoa.
I need an adult.
Maybe if it was Bowser.
Ah,
Although I guess it's based
I'm
on.
distracting him. Oh.
Oh, excellent.
Gamer got it.
It's something odd about watching Pac-Man throw Bowser.
Waka 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 waka. You did it?
Ooh,
Yes.
nice shot. Okay, one more.
The trick is just
Although I think this is where he gets angry and breaks all the platforms. Yeah. Oh,
How do I grab his tail?
I already grabbed him.
That's cheating, bro.
Oh.
Oh, uh-oh.
Close.
our platform's a lot smaller than it used to be.
Oh, I totally jumped that.
I don't.
You got it. Go true.
What button are you pressing to grab his tail?
Just
B.
just B. But if you press it
yeah,
while
the
you're
one that
like
you punch
running
with.
too fast, you do a dive.
Nope.
So
Yeah.
you gotta like slow
into
down.
it, you might grab it still, but it's more risky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just dives into him. Dead.
Yeah.
Oh.
Heck, I'm breakdancing.
Maybe, yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
nailed it.
Is he dead?
Second Bowser.
3 hits. like
Yay, the
Mario.
Mega Star! The Mega Star!
The superstar.
Oh, I
Yeah,
grabbed it.
we all get to.
We all
We all
get it.
did.
I'm a little delayed.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Everyone else is in perfect sync.
Look, I got it fast.
That's so funny. Just specifically Pac-Man's a little behind. He's been around, you know?
Waka. I'm just making sure nobody gets left behind. No dwarf left behind.
Oh gosh, this cutscene's gonna look horrific, isn't it?
Yup.
Are we all gonna get kissed at once? It's
Oh,
gonna be weird.
I just went up.
Oh god!
I
what
left.
a combination. You must go. Your planet needs you.
Yeah.
It's okay. I didn't come down.
Oh yeah, that kid never arrived. I'm going back for Hat Kid. See you guys later.
Let's go. Your hat needs you. Oh man.
It's just me flying in the air as the cutscene.
Oh
I'm
no,
seeing.
everyone's supposed to take off their hat. What are you guys gonna remove?
My goggles.
I actually have a blue hat hidden somewhere on my head. I don't know how.
Oh, perfect.
Pocket space
Yeah.
or something.
It's horrific, but Toad actually loses their head during this cutscene. Oh, and I'm gone again.
Waluigi.
See, we took off our goggles. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the goggles.
I have no hat whatsoever.
Mario. Oh, who are you
PhD
talking
vision checked.
to? Yeah, there's no Mario here.
I'm gonna laugh at to see Waluigi like stuck on the top of the roof.
Thank you, Mario. We have to.
I didn't realize she had voice lines in this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the beginning and the end.
Oh, did you both
We're
just
an
like?
abomination.
Yeah,
I think Mal got the kiss.
yeah,
Did I fall
Yeah.
asleep?
For Mario.
I fall.
yeah. I think you all fell asleep instead of going to the castle for the cake.
We passed out.
Oh, hey everybody, how's it going?
Waluigi,
see you
number
later.
one.
Waluigi number
Waluigi,
one.
the
Oh, there's
cake.
that kid.
Shivana came back.
We saw that kid in the sky.
Oh my god.
Wait, are we gonna be in these cutscenes too? Oh no, we're fused in the cutscenes.
We are as one.
This is weird. But we did it.
We're the Mario hive mind.
Holy cow, we did it.
Mario.
Yeah.
Get your elbow off my face.
Thank you everybody for joining us on this Mario adventure. I might actually end stream after this because I don't really know what else I want to start in for like 40 minutes or whatever before I'd probably be
Yeah.
getting sleepy.
I would jokingly say Deep Rock, but that's more of an action game and
Yeah.
probably less chill.
Well, I just need to also figure out why Deep Rock's been being funky, unfortunately.
Didn't we figure out it was just because it didn't like the VTuber studio thing?
Yeah, but like,
But why?
I'd like to get it working, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was cool. I liked how the cutscene had all of us like flying together, mostly.
Mhm.
Hopefully, yeah, because I mean the dust.
But
You're going Mach 5 and I'm just like,
but this worked really well. So this is the SM64EX co-op.
Because Pac-Man's not very aerodynamic.
It's basically like a culmination project that someone did in GitHub that works with the ROM to make a multiplayer synced online version of this game. And it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Like
wait
there
a
was
minute.
a couple crashes and stuff, but nothing like detrimental.
And not a lot of setback even when you did get a crash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you just join right back in.
Yeah, it
I
didn't
have to
really...
ask, who said Pac-Man was not aerodynamic? He's shaped like a cannonball. He should be tearing through the air.
Hey, that was just me.
Hey, Rainbow Road, I never went there. I totally forgot.
I didn't either.
Oh, man, the secret fish tank. We didn't go there, did we?
No, we didn't.
I wanted
I know
to.
where it is, but
Oh, there's the metal cat button.
look at our names. Tamara.
Oh yeah, Bowser's sub. I think I'm the only one that went there. I just grabbed 1 star and left.
Look, it's me again.
It's a you.
It's a me. I'm Alvin.
Oh gosh,
Why?
why? Oh god.
Oh,
It's
no.
horrendous.
I almost want to draw an elegant
amalgamation.
version of that.
Ah, we did it. It shows all the nameplates overlapping at the bottom. Bowser is a
This cake
sub.
for both
This
of
knowledge
us.
hurts the furry vid. We did it. We did it. Congratulations.